and treatment resources. Visit opgr.org. By Victor Rico's Mexican Food. Order Victor Rico's for your game day celebration. In-store or online for pickup or delivery at victorricos.com. Legends Casino Hotel in Toppenish, within winning distance. Audi Wilsonville, offering unmatched service to help you find the perfect car. Online at AudiWilsonville.com. Laurelhurst Market, more than just your friendly neighborhood steakhouse. Make your reservation today at laurelhurstmarket.com. By Unitas Community Credit Union. Join the team at Unitas Community Credit Union to help you reach your financial goals. And by Langdon Farms Golf Club. There's no better course in the Northwest for year-round golf. Book your tee time at LangdonFarms.com. Now, here are your hosts, Andy Johnson, Dusty Hara, and former Ducks and NFL star Anthony Newman with Ducks Game Day on the Odyssey app and 1080 The Fan.
Hey, what's happening, everybody? Good morning. Happy Oregon Ducks Game Day to ya on a beautiful, chilly October, now November. The calendar turned, I already forgot. What happened, Newman? It's already November, man.
I don't know. It's my birthday month.
This is the birthday month for Q, huh?
I don't even want to talk about birthdays anymore.
No, we don't want to do that. We're getting to the number we don't want to celebrate it anymore.
No,
just move on.
Just move on. Yeah. It's another day.
Let's go to Christmas. We'll just move on to Christmas next month.
We'll do that. Give me some gifts.
We're here for the next 2.5 hours. Oregon and Michigan coming up 12:30 right here on the Fan. Oregon looking to start the season 9-0. We got a lot to get to today. We'll go to Ann Arbor, hear from their side. We'll get you updated on all the injury news, who's in and who's out, and all of that. We always start, though, with the most important thing, and that is we got a happy high school football coach in here who's now gets to sit back a little bit, relax next week. State playoffs starting. We're feeling good going into the postseason.
Yeah, we're feeling good. We're playing the last two games. We got after it. I think that loss woke us up to Lake Oswego a couple weeks ago, and we know. Well, yeah. I won't say no, but we're ready.
You're ready to go.
We're ready.
Isn't it funny how that works sometimes? Where like a loss can end up being one of the best things that happens to you.
Yes, it happened 2 years ago. We lost to Sheldon early in the year, and then came back, and Sam Levitt was just killing it.
Kind of sharpened the focus a little bit.
Yep, and that's what's going on right now.
Well, that's exciting. Yeah. Wesleyan going to the playoffs. Close, uncomfortable 63-0 win last night. A little tight, a little nervous in the fourth quarter there. And now the state playoffs begin. Congratulations to all the kids who are going to the state playoffs, all the coaches and all that. It's going to start next week. State playoff time's always fun. It lets you know the football season is almost over. I do have moments this time of year where I look up and I'm like, all right, this is game 9. There are 3 games to go after this. We are in the month of November. We're about a month away from a potential Big Ten championship game. It's just wild. The season is absolutely flown by.
It's flying.
Every year you look up and it just doesn't make sense. Let's get to last week's game a little bit, Q, because we're down there. Top 20 team in the country was in town in Illinois. And there was the wonder going in. All right, this is a physical team. We know Brett Bielema's DNA. They can make games tough on you. They want to win at the line of scrimmage. We know exactly what Illinois wants to try to do. You look up about halfway through the second quarter, and the game is already over. Essentially, it's 35-3 at halftime. It just last week felt like this is just kind of a group that's understands their mission. They're on cruise control a little bit, and that was just another really impressive win for the Ducks.
Well, as a Duck fan, that's when you know you have a good football team. Everybody kind of questions, this might be a game that Illinois, they're going to give them some problems. They're good. No one knows Illinois.
Yeah.
You don't know. And then all of a sudden Oregon comes out and just takes care of business. I mean, it's like it's easy.
Yeah.
And you're going, nope, this is a good team. This team can play. And then you got guys making explosive plays. Tez Johnson. I mean, Dylan Gabriel, watching him, he's special.
Special player.
He is. We'll get into him later on. But this kid can play. He has so much. He's the game is so slow for him.
Yeah.
He's like in slow motion. It's kind of crazy, but yet he's surrounded by some good players. He got a great supporting cast, and the coaching staff is unreal. So it's fun to watch.
Well, it's one of those benefits too of, and I know we talked about this going into the year, and you can touch on this as a player, but just the fear for good teams when you have to start. Like I'll use Tennessee as an example this year. I think Tennessee is one of the best teams in the country. Their defense is loaded. They got good receivers. They got a great run game. The only issue with them is that their quarterback's a first-year starter. And so he's going to get there eventually. He's an incredibly talented kid, and he shows you flashes of it. But you also got to go through the lumps and the growing pains of it's the first time this guy's played serious Division I football, and he got a little cup of coffee last year in the bowl game. But this is it. Now they got film on you, and they know how to attack you and all that. That's the benefit of having a guy like Gabriel. When you bring him in, there's nobody that's played more football than him. He's got a chance to break the start record broken by Bo last year for most starts in college football history. Like, just how much the game has slowed down because of how much he has seen. It's another reminder that when you're out there, eventually things start to click for you. And he's in year 6, and he's playing it. He has one funky play or bad throw a game where you're like, that was a little weird, an overthrow. Usually it's when the game is in doubt, and he just kind of throws one up or airmails a guy. But when the game's tight, when they need him to be incredibly dialed in, incredibly focused, and they're tough to stop primarily because of him.
Is this the cheat code? Bringing in a quarterback that has experience. I mean, Bo Nix.
Yeah.
Okay.
Worked out pretty well for you.
Now Dylan Gabriel.
Right.
I mean, only 1 year in the system?
Yeah.
Come on.
I mean, not even a full year. He got there. In April or March, whatever it was last year to enroll for spring ball. Hasn't even been a year yet.
And you always talk about we need to develop players. Well, not really. At the quarterback position, that to me is kind of trying to get used to the players and the system, and he's killing it.
Yeah. Well, the benefit of what they're doing right now, too, is you're doing it both ways because you brought in the guy to start for a year to be the veteran. And then there's another guy who I think is kind of interesting this week because of the decision that he made, and that's Dante Moore. Now, Dante Moore is a Michigan kid. He from Detroit, one of the top-ranked high school quarterback commits. Everybody remembered he was going to go to Oregon, then flip to UCLA at the last second. So he's a guy who has playing experience. He played as a freshman at UCLA, didn't just sit on the bench and then decide to transfer out. So he's got that going for him. But the other part of this is, and I've seen some of this in Michigan conversations this week, they thought they were going to get him. They went incredibly hard after Dante Moore. And when we look at Michigan, the opponent today, and we'll get to their offense in a bit, they got a glaring weakness.
Yes.
And it is at the quarterback position.
Yes, it is.
And so they've looked all year and just say, man, Dante Moore could have come in here and been the day one starter right away.
Yeah.
But he elected to go the other direction and say, no, I want to go to a place where they've shown they can develop quarterbacks the last couple of years and what they turned Bo into.
Yep.
And he was totally fine sitting behind Dylan Gabriel for a year. If this game does get out of hand, I don't know if it will. I know people have wondered, why doesn't Dante Moore play more? I think they're just protecting his red shirt. That's the reason.
Exactly.
This is the kind of game, though, if it does get, Oregon's up 14, 20, 28 points in the second half, this is the game you'll see him in, being a Detroit kid. But Oregon's trying to do it both ways, to your point, man. I think that's the shortcut and the cheat code that a lot of teams are trying to go with. Doesn't work. It's not a blanket thing of just because you got a guy that has played,
that's true.
He's going to come in and be successful. And I think for Gabriel's example, he would have been great likely no matter where he went, but what helps him a ton, and we talk about this all the time as a defense coordinator, and it was on display again last week, I don't know what you do or what you focus on against their offense right now. We had that stretch where it was Tez was killing everybody, and then, okay, let's bracket and double him, and let's try and take him out of the game in the slot. And what do? You get Evan Stewart over the top. Yeah. And then last week in the passing game, all right, let's not let Evan Stewart beat us deep. Here comes Tez, 6 catches, 102 yards. Yeah. You got Jordan James going off, and then, by the way, here's Noah Whittington trucking dudes at the goal line, and this is without your number one tight end. It has to be a nightmare because you have that experienced quarterback who's smart, savvy, knows how to make plays, but then you look around, and there's not one thing that you can take away from this offense right now, and that's why they're just firing at such a high level.
Well, and also the offensive line. They're starting to gel. They're starting to play well together. And everybody thought our offensive line was going to be good, but it takes a couple of games to get used to each other. Yeah. But these guys, they're beasts, and one of the best offensive linemen is not playing. So it's interesting to see this team. As a defensive guy, I'm looking at this Oregon offense, going, who do I stop? Is it the running game? But you always have to stop the running game. But if I start bringing guys into the box, they got too many receivers.
Yeah.
We can't have one-on-ones. I don't have 4 good DBs.
Right.
That's the problem. So what do you do? I'm thinking, I'm not gonna stop the run. I'm gonna stop the passing game.
Okay, I'll give you your 4 or 5 yards here, there, try and bottle you up a little bit.
Because I don't think, and I'm saying this as a defender, okay, I don't think Jordan James, he's an explosive player that could take it 60. Now, he could take it 20, he could take it 35, 40, but he's not going to run away from us. We'll catch him, if he breaks one loose.
Yeah.
But I can't have Tez Johnson and Evan Stewart get behind the defense.
Yeah.
No, we got to keep them in front of us because otherwise they're going to jump on us 21-0 in the first quarter.
Just like they did last week.
Exactly.
And the week before. I mean,
that's what happens.
They went in against Purdue, and Purdue said, all right, let's try and be a little bit more aggressive against the run, and here comes Evan Stewart over the top, and you're just making big plays. This is an offense we got spoiled with it last year, and I think we wondered at times, to your point on the offensive line early in the season, did we take that for granted? Did we, just expecting Dylan Gabriel to come in and fire? And be so efficient. But they've gotten there, and largely because the offensive line has been settled. But I also think to this point on Gabriel, where he's just got on campus in the spring, it just, as you know, it just takes time with those relationships, man, and getting on the same page and thinking about some of these quarterback wide receivers who just spend hours and hours and hours throwing routes and knowing their timing and where you're going to be on the field. It takes a long time to develop that chemistry. And Oregon, their offense, it is clearly there right now. We'll get to the injury report coming up a little bit later on this morning. They got a chance to get some good news, too, and that connects to something that we can start getting into here, and I want to carry over a little bit in the next segment as well. But when you were at Oregon, awesome highlights, awesome wins, great memories. There is a drastic difference between those teams and this team, and I feel like there's nobody better to talk about it than you, and that is what has been on display for me the last couple of weeks is the strength that I thought they had coming into the year, and it's the depth that you have built. That you have a situation where, there's times over, whether it's in Anthony Newman's days or in the early 2000s or whenever it might have been, that you lose an early NFL draft pick on the defensive line out for a couple of weeks. You lose an NFL draft pick as a tight end out for a couple of games now. And those kind of things where you lose a dominant pass rusher in an elite piece of your offense could throw a wrench in the bicycle spokes, if you will, and slow you down because, hey, how are we going to win? Where is the drop-off from guy 1 to guy 2 on the depth chart? And I know from your time as a player there and then just watching as a football fan, it's been remarkable how they have not slowed up in any way, shape, or form on either side of the ball the last couple of weeks.
We're not even in the same planet as depth. We were my senior year. We were we were playing well. And we were ranked 16th in the nation.
Yeah, we got 5-1 start or 6-1 start or whatever it was.
Yes. Yeah. And Bill Musgrave, our quarterback, breaks his collarbone. No disrespect to our backup quarterback. I'm not trying to bash our backup quarterback. Yeah. But he couldn't throw a swing pass. Could he? So Derek Lavelle, our star running back, was just getting crushed because they were loading the box.
Not much to do there.
Not much to do there. So it's and that was just our quarterback.
Yeah.
And then our whole season I'm like, okay, I'm out.
Just sideways. All right. We got top end guys. The guys behind me, not quite the same. But this is what recruiting and what Dan Lanning has been. It's just like look up and down. I mean, Jordan Birch goes down. You got Tatum Tuioti and Mateo Uiagalelei dominant on the edge. Terrence Ferguson goes down, and here's Kenyon Sadiq, by the way. Good luck tackling him in the open field.
Really?
Right? I mean, Trayshawn Holden gets suspended for the Purdue game. Here comes Justice Lowe, local kid, catching his first career touchdown pass. Now elevating himself into the rotation, and now maybe he's higher on the depth chart. He's taking advantage of his opportunity. Like we'll talk a lot about, and you were there in 2007, the last time Oregon and Michigan played. And it's a memorable game for Duck fans and the Statue of Liberty and the fake Statue of Liberty. It's one that we all remember fondly. How did that season end? It ended with your quarterback going down and your season crumbling because you just didn't have – and look, I get it. The quarterbacks are different than a defensive end or a wide receiver or a tight end. But there just have been times in the past where it felt like, oh, God, if we circle this guy and he goes down – we're screwed, man. We don't have a chance in hell in order to still be an elite defense or still be an elite passing attack. It's just remarkable, man. The depth that they have built and the number of weapons that they have. Lanning talks about this, and I know you know it as a coach, that there's guys that they try and coach up and keep engaged in August, September, early October, telling them there's going to be a moment we're going to need you. Like you're not in the rotation right now. You're not playing snaps right now, but we're going to need you at some point, and those players are listening to that message right now.
Well, it's so weird. Back in the day, USC was that type of team.
Yeah.
They stocked players. They just had so many players. Everybody was at USC. And the fourth string could start at Oregon and be an All-American. Fourth string.
Right.
But he was at USC waiting his turn. Waiting his turn to get maybe 1 or 2 years.
Yeah.
I'm thinking, okay, so what's going on here? Can we get some of those guys?
I
Now
think
we're
you needed
getting
a
them.
few more. You needed a few more envelopes
Yeah,
with
yeah,
a
yeah.
couple of Benjamin Franklins in there to get those guys back in the day.
Thank you. By the way, I didn't get nothing.
No, you didn't get nothing.
I didn't get
You didn't
nothing.
get
No, I didn't.
The depth is incredible, man. 38-9 last week over Illinois. I want to talk a little bit more about that. Some of the stuff we've seen from these young guys. How about the depth you've now built at running back? Not because somebody went down, but because somebody is getting healthy. We'll start diving into this matchup. Oregon and Michigan coming up 4 hours, a little over 4 hours from now. A big showdown in Ann Arbor in the Big House for the Oregon Ducks as they look to start their season 9-0. We'll continue on talking about this game. Back after this, you got the Oregon Ducks pregame show on 1080 The Fan.
It's 47, mostly cloudy here in Portland, 44 and sunny in Ann Arbor. Ducks game day forecast calls for cloudy skies this morning with rain beginning this afternoon, a low of 48. For the 12:30 kick at the Big House, sunny and 53. It'll get down to the mid, possibly low 40s by the final horn. I'm Jeff Rust with Ducks game day weather every 10 minutes, brought to you by Victor Rico's Mexican Food. Order Victor Rico's Mexican Food for your game day celebration in-store or online for pickup or delivery at victorricos.com.
Hey, it's Suk talking to all my contractors
Ducks Game Day, presented by Coors Light. Mountain Cold Refreshment. Choose chill. Celebrate responsibly.
All right, welcome back in. 8:20 on your Saturday morning. Thanks for waking up. Hope you got the bacon on. Maybe you're out in Ann Arbor listening right now. I got some buddies out there. Now, you were there in 2007.
Yeah.
What was Anthony Newman's thought of the big? Was that your first time in the big house?
Yes, it was.
Okay,
yes,
what did we make of the stadium?
It was nice.
Yeah.
I mean, it's tradition. It's weird because you think 100,000 people is going to be loud. Not at all.
Really?
No.
Now, how much of that had to do with the way the game went? Because Oregon beat the absolute brakes off of them.
That's true. But at the beginning of the game, when it started,
Even when right out of the gate,
yeah,
you could tell.
yeah, everybody's the introductions and all that stuff. It was crazy. I mean, it's packed. There's no doubt about it. There's a ton of people there, but it's just the kids, the stands. They're not on you. It goes out wide, so it's really strange. But it's a beautiful stadium.
Yeah.
I mean, the stadium, the surface, everything. It was really nice. It really was. Yeah.
It's interesting that you can have, because Big Ten fans have a hard time thinking about that. We got this with Ohio State when they came to town. There was that thought of, you only got 60,000. How loud could it be at Autzen Stadium? You only got 60,000. Then they have all the penalties in the game. Will Howard says afterwards, that actually was a pretty loud place to play.
Yeah.
Rattled us a little bit. But so much of it is the design of the stadium.
Yes.
It's not the amount of people and the amount of
Right.
volume you
No.
can create. It's where does the noise go when you yell.
That's right.
And that's what I've heard a lot, and you echoed that about the big house, is that it is big. But it almost, the way you're describing it, kind of, I almost feel like the Rose Bowl is kind of that way.
It's
where
similar.
it's kind of older, but
Yes.
the seats go kind of flatter and
That's
out
right.
further.
Yeah.
So if you're far away from the field, it's not a very good seat.
No.
Because you're like a mile away from the action.
Yes, exactly right.
Where at Autzen, you're up a little bit higher,
Yeah.
but you're kind of still on top of the action.
Yeah,
So
yeah. Oh, there's a difference.
yeah.
There's a difference.
You can tell it.
Both stadiums. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, on that note, we'll see how the game plays out today. I did have the thought, thinking about it, that one of the things about Oregon that they haven't really been challenged in this year is a tough road environment. Like, you had it in Oregon State maybe in the first quarter. Like, that place was pretty charged up. Beavers were pissed, but then Oregon jumps out to a lead in the second quarter. People end up kind of sitting on their hands a little bit. Purdue, that was their Super Bowl, so they got into it, but that's such a bad team, and it was 21-0 right out of the gate, that not really affected by it.
Yeah.
So today might end up being the same thing, but this is one of those atmospheres where you're the number one team in the country. Michigan's the defending national champion. Like, I'm curious to see if that has any impact on the game at all, or if because you're so experienced a quarterback and your offensive line is now gelled, that doesn't end up having a big impact.
Well, I'm thinking as a fan, tradition. You're looking at Michigan. I mean, you're looking at the big house. You're looking at 100,000 people. They're going to be hyped. The number one team's coming in. They can't wait to get a piece of the number one team. And they are a good football team. They're missing a key factor. That's the quarterback.
Yeah.
So their defense, they fly around. Big offensive line. Got some good receivers. Their running game is outstanding. And that's how you win football games. You run the football.
And that's what they're going to try and do.
Yes, control the clock. But still, you don't have enough, and you're playing 4 quarters. It's not a couple of quarters. You got 4 quarters of football. But I think our coaching staff, Dan Lanning and the entire staff, is telling those kids, it's not about Michigan. It's about us.
Yeah.
It's what we do. We can care less who we play. Dan Lanning said it. He said, "We go get a field out in the backyard, put some turf down, and we'll play you. I don't care where we play.
That's where we'll go play."
Exactly right. And so now these kids believe that.
Yeah.
They trust the coaching staff, and they're like, "Yeah, let's go. Let's do it." So it's going to be interesting in that first quarter. If Oregon, which Oregon has been doing, jumping out and just jumping on people.
Yeah,
and
game will
also-
be over.
Yes,
if
it's
you do
over.
it today.
Yes, yes, exactly.
Yeah, there's some teams that are built for the comeback of being able to throw their way back into a game. Michigan is not one of those.
Not at all.
I think in every single one of their losses, they have trailed by double digits in the first half, if I'm not mistaken, or somewhere in that range.
Yeah.
Texas, when they went in there, beat them, jumped on them. Washington, I want to say, when they lost in Seattle, had like a 14-0 or 10-0 lead in the first half. And so it's really challenging for this offense to try and find a way back into the game. And then on the other side of that, I think for Oregon trying to ice out games going forward, one of the guys that I love end up being wrong on some of this stuff because it's good for the ultimate football team. I questioned last Saturday. I said, hey, should there be a shuffle in the running back rotation? You got guys like Jaden Lamar. We saw Jay Harris last week at Purdue. Like, is it time to maybe get some of that new blood in there and get some fresh legs and some younger legs? Because there just seems to be a missing step from Noah Whittington. And there's a balance of, you understand what he's coming back from. You want to give him that time, but also we're going into week 8, week 9. Like, is it going to cost you at some point not having a second running back? And he said, "Hey, Dirt, just shut up because I'm going to go for 7 and 56, average 8 yards a carry, truck a guy at the goal line for one of the best highlights of the season for this football team." But that gets Oregon's running game, I think, if that's what you're going to get from Noah Whittington, back to what we've always loved about it, and that's a two-headed monster that you can kind of change change the pace and rotate guys in and out. But he looked awesome last week, and that was great to see.
That was the old Noah Whittington that we saw last year. I mean, just explosive. He looked quick. He's a good running back. He reads his blocks. He sets up his blocks. He can pass block, and he can catch out of the backfield.
Yes.
That
touchdown catch at Purdue was nuts, man.
That's ridiculous. So that's why he's so dangerous, where he could do all 3 phases. But I love how they just, they rotate the 2 backs. They just, and more so now they're going to do that because the way Noah's playing. Mm-hmm. That's also hard to stop as a defense because one guy runs a certain way. You got to get used to as a defensive guy. How does this guy run? Is he stop and go? And this guy, he just hits a hole and takes off. So it's kind of strange. Now all of a sudden, they're both short. You can't see them behind those big offensive linemen.
Right.
So like, wait, who's back there? Is it Noah or is it Jordan James? Yeah. So it creates problems. But I like these running backs because they're tough. They can block. They protect the quarterback. And they can catch out of the backfield.
The other thing that it helps you do, so they have played 8 games this year, Oregon has. Jordan James has played in all 8 games. He's got carries in all 8 games. You know how many times this year he's had 20 carries or more in a game?
How many?
3.
That's crazy.
He had 15 against Idaho, 17 against Boise, 12 for 86 against Oregon State, and then he had a game stretch where I think they were trying to ramp him up for Ohio State. He had 20 against UCLA, 24 against Michigan State, 23 in the Ohio State win. Last 2 weeks after that win, in which Oregon has dominated their opponents, he had 10 carries against Purdue, 15 carries against Illinois.
Really?
So this is where it goes back to what we were talking about in that opening segment. Having that ability to be like, you're almost on a pitch count at this point. We're going to give you 10, 15 carries. If we're up 35-3 at the half, guess what? You're not going into the second half, buddy.
Yeah.
We're Jaden Lamar, here you go. Noah Whittington, here you go.
Yep.
And then when you need a guy like James in a big moment in a big game later in the year, his carry load and his workload's not going to wear him down by the end of the season.
They're healthy now.
And they're healthy now.
Yeah,
and they're getting healthier as the year goes on.
Yeah.
So that depth is there, man. Great to see from Noah Whittington. I love when guys prove me wrong, and can't wait to see what he does in the big house this weekend. Awesome performance. He's had some big plays this year. The touchdown catch against Purdue, kickoff return against Boise, but to see him get it going on the ground was a sight for sore eyes, and now Oregon's back to kind of having that 2-headed monster in the running back room. Let's take a deeper look at Michigan. We'll do that coming up next. I got a question for Anthony because there's a lot of high-level talent on this defense, but the numbers don't say that it's a high-level defense. So trying to figure that out and why that is. We'll go behind enemy lines coming up in a bit. We'll let you know who's in and who's out. Injury report coming up as well. We're just getting started. Oregon Ducks pregame show on 1080 The Fan.
It's 47, mostly cloudy here in Portland, 45 and sunny in Ann Arbor. Ducks game day forecast calls for cloudy skies this morning with rain beginning this afternoon. A low of 48 for the 12:30 kick at the Big House. Sunny and 53. It'll get down to the mid, possibly even low 40s by the final horn. I'm Jeff Rust with Ducks game day weather every 10 minutes, brought to you by Victor Rico's Mexican Food. Order Victor Rico's Mexican Food for your game day celebration in-store or online for pickup or delivery at victorricos.com.
I'm Leif, owner of Leif's Auto Collision
NFL star Anthony Newman with Ducks Game Day on the Odyssey app and 1080 The Fan.
All right, welcome back in. Oregon Ducks Game Day on 1080 The Fan. Andy Dur Johnson, Anthony Newman, Jeff Russ hanging out with you. We'll hear from Dusty coming up in a bit. He is in Ann Arbor, so we'll get kind of a scene setter. It sounds like the weather should be fine, although we got some weather reports throughout the show, so we'll let you know if anything changes. John Jansen's going to join us here in a couple of moments, the color analyst of the Michigan Wolverine football. So we'll find out how they're feeling about this matchup, who's in, who's out on their side. One big player that we do know, Will Johnson, will not be playing. That was announced last night. People were wondering all week. He missed the game last week for them, their in-state rivalry game against Michigan State, waiting all week to see. He got hurt in the Illinois game the week before, but they announced last night, sources all over college football say he will not be playing today. And so that's a big blow to this Michigan defense. And we were just talking about it a little bit there, Anthony, and it's an interesting defense to me. So when you look at NFL big boards for the draft and just like ranking of prospects right now in college football going into next April's NFL draft.
Yeah.
This Michigan defense has legitimately 4, maybe 5 of the top 40, 50 guys in all of college football. That's a lot of high-end talent. Now, to be fair, Will Johnson's one of those guys, and as I just said, he's not going to play today.
Right.
It's hard for me at times to compute. I know their defensive front, this might be the best defensive front Oregon plays all year.
Yes.
They got some absolute studs up front and some game wreckers, man.
Yes.
And then I look at their total defense numbers on the season. This is the 11th best defense in the Big Ten.
I know.
In the Big Ten, Wisconsin, Nebraska, Oregon, Minnesota, Washington, Indiana, all have better defenses, just statistically speaking, than Michigan. It's just hard for me to compute in my head knowing how much talent they have, but then looking at some of the numbers and saying, wait a minute, this is a middle-of-the-road Big Ten defense.
Well, sometimes I've been there before. When your offense can't score and you're on the field all the time, and you get on the field and all of a sudden you make some good plays and you come off the field and it's 3 downs and out and you're right back on the field again.
Go back
You don't
out.
have a chance to drink a cup of water.
Yeah.
You start to get flustered over time. You're like, okay, come on. We need some help, but yet they have some dudes that are big-time players. To me, the guy that I'm impressed with the most is Josiah Stewart.
He is coming on like a freight train the last month or so.
He has 11 tackles for loss.
Yeah.
That is unreal. And then 6 sacks.
Yeah.
Like, wait, now, is he blitzing all the time? Is he dropping back in coverage? It's unreal. And he looks like Tarzan. Again, he's 6'1", 250. The kid's playing outside linebacker, edge rusher. You have to keep an eye on number 0.
Yes.
So they have guys like that on their defense that can play. But, it doesn't matter who you are. Your mind controls your body. So over time, you're going, oh, what are we doing here? Okay, should I just – okay, I'm done.
Right.
Yeah, it gets old. So that's why maybe you look at their total defenses like, yeah, they're last in the conference. Yeah, because the offense can't do nothing.
Yeah, eventually you just wear down and break down. On that note, Michigan's scoring offense this year is 14th in the Big Ten. They are averaging only 21 points per game.
Yes.
The only teams in the conference who average a lower point per game total than Michigan are Michigan State, who's a half a point behind them, Purdue, who we know how bad Purdue is, Northwestern, and UCLA.
Yeah.
Those are the only offenses in the Big Ten who average fewer points per game than Michigan at 21 points per game. That makes them 14th out of the 18 teams in the Big Ten. So that very well could be it, where it's a defense that can make a play here or there, get you some stops, but eventually everybody's gonna crumble if you leave them on the field the entire game and say we need you to go win this game for us. And that's where I think we'll get more into this matchup as the show goes on. You tell me Michigan's defense makes some stops, a little uncomfortable in the first half. Not surprising, at least they got dudes. It's the other side of the ball that if you're a Michigan fan, you got to look at and say, can we score 24 points on this Oregon defense? Illinois couldn't do it. Purdue couldn't do it. UCLA couldn't do it. Michigan State couldn't do it. Can we get to 24 points? It's not a very good offense. Let's find out more about Michigan and their offense. We'll go behind enemy lines to Ann Arbor. John Jansen is the color analyst for Michigan football. He's going to hop on. That is coming up next. We're just getting started here, getting you all set. Oregon and Michigan coming up 12:30. Behind enemy lines next. Now it's time for Ducks Game Day weather every 10 minutes. Brought to you by Victor Rico's Mexican food. Order Victor Rico's for your Game Day celebration in store or online for pickup or delivery at victorricos.com. Here's Jeff Rust.
It's 47, mostly cloudy here in Portland, 45 and sunny in Ann Arbor. Ducks game day forecast calls for cloudy skies this morning with rain beginning this afternoon and a low of 48. For the 12:30 kick at the Big House, sunny and 53. It'll get down to the mid, possibly low 40s by the final horn. I'm Jeff Rust with Ducks game day weather every 10 minutes, brought to you by Victor Rico's Mexican Food.
Everywhere you look, things are getting
Light presents Ducks Game Day. Mountain cold refreshment. Choose chill. Celebrate responsibly.
Here's the sweep, the fly sweep, and the double. Oh, the ball's loose. Oregon might have a chance and will get on it back at the 23-yard line.
This is Behind Enemy Lines. A look at Ducks opponents with the insiders who know them best. On the Odyssey app and 1080 The Fan.
All right, let's find out more about this Michigan Wolverine team. Big showdown in Ann Arbor coming up today, 12:30, right here on The Fan. Oregon on the road, taking on the defending national champions. Joining us now, color analyst of Michigan football, John Jansen. John, thanks so much for the time, man. What's been the vibe out there about this game? Oregon is a new team in the Big Ten. They're obviously coming in as the number one team in the country. Just kind of, where was the anticipation when the schedule came out, and how has that lived up to the hype leading into the game this week?
Well, Oregon has done their share to live up to the hype. Obviously, number one team in the country. So there's a great buzz about the game. The problem locally here is that Michigan hasn't upheld their end of the bargain. And, it's still going to be a great matchup, great game. But the stakes aren't what we anticipated at this point in the season for Michigan.
Yeah, we were talking in the last segment about this Michigan defense where you look, just incredible high-end talent where you got, mock NFL drafts or rankings of college players where there's 5 guys maybe in the top like 30 or 40 potentially. But then some of the numbers don't necessarily bear that out when you look at what they've done as a total defense on the year. I'm just curious, that is unquestionably the strength of this team is their defense. What do you make of the way that they're playing, and how has it impacted with the news last night of no Will Johnson this afternoon?
Obviously, when you look at what Oregon has offensively and the weapons that Dylan Gabriel has at his disposal, not having Will Johnson is huge. And you're right. I mean, when you look at Kenneth Grant, Mason Graham, Jayshon Barham, obviously Will Johnson, those are all guys that people are talking about in the top 40 picks of the draft. Some of them top 5, top 10. But the problem that we've had is we have good individual players. They just haven't been able to play as a good team defense. Wick Martindale, I think he's done an admirable job of getting to know the players. He hasn't been at the college game in quite some time. Mm-hmm. So there's been an adjustment period. Jesse Minter obviously has moved on. He was the defensive coordinator last year. And it's just a matter of trying to get a feel for how these guys are responding to some of the calls, getting them to understand his concepts of defense, And I felt, the last couple of weeks, even at Illinois, it was a loss, but the defense played much better. The secondary was much more aggressive. And the second half of that game is where Will was out. So I'm hoping that we see more from the defensive backs like Jair Hill, Amir Hall, Makari Page, some of those guys that were taking a more aggressive approach to the game, and it really started the second half of that Illinois game. We're going to have to see that today.
Yeah, there's no doubt that defense was phenomenal in that game. Their offense just let them down. They kept them around, though, and had a great chance to win that one potentially. Let's go to that other side, John. On the offensive side, they've rotated quarterbacks all year. I remember seeing workout videos of Alex Orgy in August thinking, holy crap, who the hell's going to tackle this guy? He's doing all sorts of stuff. Looks like an absolute freak, and he's playing a little bit and he's running a lot, but they've rotated, landed back on the original starter. Just how do you feel about the way they've handled that and having that question settled? How does that maybe help the offense this week?
Well, last week they were able to find a little bit of a rhythm, and really it was the same style that they played last year when they had JJ, and then every once in a while you would see Alex Orgy. If you could put Alex and Davis in one player, you'd have a hell of a quarterback because Davis is a much better passer,
right.
And Alex is obviously he's just an athletic freak. So it's really going to come down to Kirk Campbell and Sharon Moore as they direct this offense and call the game. Last week there was some razzle-dazzle. There were some trick plays. How do they sprinkle those in? How do they create the offense against a very tough front for Oregon? And it really comes down to the quarterback play. And honestly, Michigan can stay in this game if they just simply don't turn the ball over. In the first three games, Davis Warren threw 6 interceptions. Alex Orgy had 1 in his 2 starts, and that's been the big thing. Even Jeff Tuttle, when he was at quarterback, it was 2 fumbles, 2 picks in 2 starts, and you can't win games when you do that.
Now, did they try? I'm just curious on that. Did they try and go after the portal era? Makes this position a lot different. Were they aggressive in trying to get somebody? Did they have confidence in their room? Did they strike out? Just how did they handle that in the offseason? And how did fans feel about that position coming into the year?
Well, fans are all asking the same question, and I mean, they'll never tell you if they struck out, right? Because they don't want to admit that they don't have the guy that they went after. But it's really, to me, this is the blame of not having a stud quarterback at Michigan defending national champs is on Jim Harbaugh. Yeah. Jim Harbaugh put all his eggs in one basket and tempted the NFL 3 times. What type of quarterback is going to come here if he doesn't know if Jim Harbaugh and the staff are going to be here to coach him or to see him through?
Yeah.
And you could say that anywhere, but then Jim didn't leave until January 24. Part of that was the national championship run. Part of that was he was still trying to find a job in the NFL. And when you don't leave and you don't try and replace your starting quarterback, even if you're going to, even if you are going to leave, you would think you would want to leave the next coach, especially if it's going to be one of your assistants, in a better position than Jim Harbaugh left this team.
Yeah, that's a great way to look at it. Now, I'm curious to ask this, like one of those, when you break up with somebody, did these moments mean as much to you as they did to me? The 2007 game is a big game in the history of Oregon football. They were out in Ann Arbor. That was a team that was loaded, and then their season crumbled when Dennis Dixon got hurt. But they ran a fake Statue of Liberty play, and that has been on highlight reels for Oregon fans all week. Does that game have any, do Michigan fans remember that game, or do you guys have such a rich history that you just kind of, and Appalachian State was a week before that. You just block that one out, or do you guys remember that game in 2007?
Oh, we don't forget any loss. We don't forget any of that stuff. Just trust me, especially, I was still playing in the league at that time. And, you run around guys, at that time, hey, anybody in the Pac-12 or Pac-10, I even remember the name of it at that time.
Yeah.
They're going to let you know about a Pac-10, Pac-12 team coming to Ann Arbor and getting a win. If God forbid you were around anybody with connections to the University of Oregon, they were going to let you know as well. So, no, it is not forgotten. But I don't know how much of a bearing it has on today. For all of us old guys, sure, but we have nothing to do with what's going on the field.
Yeah, no doubt about that. Last thoughts for you, John, just, on this matchup. We're looking at it thinking, hey, Michigan's defense might have the ability to keep them in. Is their offense going to be able to muster enough in order to beat Oregon? But Oregon hasn't really been challenged in necessarily a tough road environment this year. The travel starting to wear. Just your thoughts on the game. How do you think it plays out? I think the spread is 14-15, somewhere in that range. How do you feel about the game this afternoon?
Well, I don't feel great. If that's what you're looking for. But if Michigan's going to stay in the game, if they're going to have a chance, and like, okay, I do the home broadcast, and I would like to sit here and tell you, here's the recipe, and here's what Michigan has to do. Michigan's going to need some help. And if we all know Dan Lanning, and you guys know him better than I do, he's an aggressive style of coach.
Yeah.
And if he goes for it on their 35 on a 4th and short and doesn't get it, Michigan has to turn that into points. They're going to have to get a big play on special teams. They might have to get a defensive score, like a pick six or a fumble, or at least put Michigan in a short field position so that they can put together 5-6 plays instead of having to go 80 yards to score a touchdown. If some of those things happen, then sure, I think Michigan has a chance, and that's the recipe for a Michigan win. And I'm not going to sit here and say that they can't put an 80-yard drive together, but there's nothing through 8 games that makes you believe that that's going to happen today.
Yeah, very true. Last one, one more I'll sneak in here. I'm just curious. You've been around this conference longer than we have. We're the new kids on the block. Ohio State, Penn State. I know this from afar. It's like, hey, Penn State, you got to win one of these eventually. But Ryan Day's got his issues in big games, as you guys know, and we learned this year. What are your thoughts on that game? How do you think that one plays out?
Oh, it's from a Michigan standpoint, and our record aside, I know where I'm standing right now. It's going to be wildly entertaining. We love to see Ryan Day lose. I mean, his 3 losses since he's been head coach, or 5 losses, 3 of them have been against Michigan. 1 in a national championship game against Georgia, and then another one in the against you guys.
Yeah.
And that was a last-second defeat. So it's not like he's been run out of town. But if you're in Columbus, man, they don't like Ryan Day, and he's had so many big wins. I think it would be, and I don't think a lot of James Franklin. So we got 2 head coaches going head-to-head that I think there's a lot of disdain around the country for. From my perspective, and this is from a Michigan man's perspective, I would love to see James Franklin beat Ryan Day, because there's a chance Ryan Day might cry after the game.
That is very true. So it's one of those, something's got to give. Neither coach can win a big game. Something's got to give this afternoon. John Jansen, color analyst of Michigan football. We're excited, man. I know a lot of Duck fans have made the trip out there, so hopefully everybody is cordial and enjoys a beautiful day of football at the Big House. Thanks so much for the time, man. Have a great call, and hopefully we can do this again someday soon.
That sounds good. Looking forward to seeing all the Ducks fans, and we'll welcome them here with open arms. We just hope that it's a win for Michigan.
There you go. Great stuff. John Jansen, color analyst of Michigan football. As that was about as fair and honest of assessment as you'll hear from a team. He touched on that defensive thing we were talking about, Anthony, where they got individual guys, but they've had a hard time getting them all to be on the same page. And you know that as a defensive coordinator, if you don't have everybody doing their 111, you can have 9 guys win on the play, but 2 guys are doing their own thing. All of a sudden, here's a big play.
Well, John's an ex-player, so he understands it. He's being real. He's like, okay, this is what's going on.
Right.
I'm just giving you a heads up. I'm being real. It don't look too good,
right.
But we still have a chance.
Yeah, they still have talent. There's still pieces on that roster.
Thank you. So it's, but he was real with us. He was like, I don't know.
Well, you go get those NFL D coordinators, too. You just never quite know how they're going to adjust. Wink Martindale's been in the NFL forever.
Oh, yes.
Forever. And him coming back to college, it's just, sometimes there's a figure-out process there. John Jansen, great stuff from him.
Is it fair to say Wink Martindale made a deal to go back to college?
Yeah, I think he did. I think he did make a deal to go back to college. See what you did there, Russ. Let's get to the Zoom Care injury report. We already told you Will Johnson is out. What about the other side? Is Oregon getting healthy at the right time? We'll give you the Zoom Care injury report. That is coming up next, but now it's time for Ducks Game Day weather every 10 minutes, brought to you by Victor Rico's Mexican Food. Order Victor Rico's for your game day celebration in-store or online for pickup or delivery at victorricos.com. Here's Jeff Rust.
47, mostly cloudy here in Portland, 48 and sunny in Ann Arbor. Ducks Game Day forecast calls for cloudy skies this morning with rain beginning this afternoon. A low of 48 for the 12:30 kick at the Big House. Sunny and 53. It'll get down to the mid, possibly even low 40s by the final horn. I'm Jeff Rust with Ducks Game Day weather every 10 minutes, brought to you by Victor Rico's Mexican Food. Order Victor Rico's Mexican Food for your game day celebration in-store or online for pickup or delivery at victorricos.com.
Coors Light presents Ducks Game Day.
We should have our guys available. Right now, we're still waiting to see. Have some guys that still have to get healthy.
This is the Zoom Care Injury Report. A look at the injuries that could impact today's game and the key matchups in college football. Brought to you by Zoom Care. With more than 20 neighborhood clinics in Oregon and Southwest Washington, Zoom Care offers convenient access to same-day urgent and emergency care, plus an expanded primary care team, currently accepting new patients. Schedule or learn more at zoomcare.com.
Well, let's take a look at the injury report. Will Johnson being out for Michigan is a big blow for that defense. You're talking an All-American, first-round NFL draft prospect in the secondary who missed the game last week for them in their in-state rivalry matchup against Michigan State and will miss the game as well today. Let's go to the other side, and that is for Oregon. We touched on their depth and how much it has been on display here the last couple of weeks. Sounds like there's a chance. Now, we don't know for certain. We're all waiting to see. Terrence Ferguson had his appendix removed right before the Purdue game. That's why he ended up missing that at the last second.
Yep.
As somebody who's had their appendix removed, it's not a fun process, and it takes a while to recover from it. So not surprised to see he didn't play last week. He was back at practice this week, so there's hope that he's going to be able to return. And then we talked to Dusty last week, who said he saw Jordan Birch back at practice. Now, he wasn't a full participant, but he was back moving around. This was last week before the Illinois game. We knew he likely wasn't going to play last week, but sounds like there's a chance both those guys come back, which would be a huge boost for you because they're two really talented players, and you've been able to lean on your depth, but the healthier you can get later in the season, they've done a remarkable job of that. It'd be great to see them both if they could play today.
Well, Jordan Birch, that's a great matchup for this Michigan offense because they're big offensive linemen.
Yeah.
So you need another big guy on defense to help out a little bit, and because Jordan Birch is a stud. But, the depth of Oregon, they've been rotating that defensive line. Our own Amarion Winston is playing well.
He's playing awesome football right now, man.
Oh, my God, So they have a lot of talent, but Jordan Birch would help it keep the guys healthy throughout the game. You keep rotating guys. Michigan offense will get tired. And all of a sudden, you got a fresh defensive lineman coming in trying to get after the quarterback.
The other one that we'll keep an eye on today, a guy that I know I've had a lot of fans ask me about, is Jaleel Florence, who played a big role in their secondary last year. He has been out all season. He had not played. I think he dealt with a knee injury or something, maybe at the end of the year. I can't remember exactly. But he has been out, and they've been waiting to get him back. He's been back at practice in recent weeks. And so that's another one where I don't know if we've talked enough about, and we can get into this at some point during the show this morning, Anthony, where the way Nico Reed's playing right now, that corner two spot.
Yes, that's exactly
we all kind of thought was going to be a weakness coming into the year, has not been a weakness.
Nope.
But getting another body back there, just to your point about rotating and keeping guys fresh and having, pitch counts almost and snap counts where you say, all right, we'll give you a series here, give you a series off. Series here, series off. It adds to it. So Jaleel Florence coming back in that secondary room would be a welcome sign for Oregon fan and the staff.
Well, this might be a good game to come back because there's not a receiver threat, and this team they want to throw the football, so it's an easy comeback.
Yeah,
you're not going against a stud receiver that you got to.
This is not Jeremiah Smith.
No,
at Ohio State.
You got to test your technique and your concepts. Like no, just come in there, tackle some running backs. Get off the block. It's a little easier.
It's a very polite way of saying Michigan can't throw the football. They average 130 passing yards a game. 130. I think in high school I averaged more than 130 passing yards a game. 130. That is
terrible.
Bottom in the Big Ten.
Oh, it's terrible.
They average fewer passing yards per game than Iowa.
Yeah, that's
Iowa.
Yeah.
So to your point, you're not going to get challenged deep down the field very often against this team. Can you get in there and make a tackle in the run game? We'll see. So Oregon looking for some good injury news. We'll see if Dusty has anything on that as he's going to join us coming up here in a bit from Ann Arbor. Zoom Care Injury Report brought to you by Zoom Care. More than 20 neighborhood clinics in Oregon and Southwest Washington. Zoom Care offers convenient access to same-day urgent and emergency care, plus an expanded primary care team. Currently accepting new patients. Schedule or learn more at zoomcare.com. I'm on a rough stretch here from my Legends Casino Hotel Lock of the Week. We're on a cold streak right now.
Roll.
We got to get off the cold streak, and we'll do that next on 1080 The Fan.
their lock of the week in college football.
If I were a more serious college football gambler, I would have locked this in earlier.
The Legends Casino Hotel Lock of the Week. Brought to you by Legends Casino Hotel in Toppenish. Legends Casino Hotel, within winning distance.
Yeah, we're on a cold streak right now. It happens. Happens to the best of us. Got off to a great start early in the season. Now, can't find a win to save my life. But that's going to change today, Q. It's going to change today, okay?
Keep grinding.
That's all you can do.
That's all you can do.
You just get back on that horse, baby.
Hey.
You just keep working.
Let's go.
Learn from your losses. That's what we're trying to do here. I'm gonna call up an old familiar friend of ours in a game that is about to kick off in a couple of minutes. Now, I think they're going to win the game, so I'm not calling an upset here. I just think the point spread's a little too big. Manny Diaz was the old coach at Miami.
Oh.
They fired him to go hire Mario Cristobal. He then went to Penn State for a couple of years, ran a great defense, landed the head coaching job at Duke. Duke is on the road at Miami today. So I have the Manny Diaz revenge game, school that fired him. They're not elite, but they're not terrible this year. And Miami's defense is a problem unless they're playing Florida State, and Florida State can't score on anybody. The line in this game is 21.5. 21.5. That's too many points for me.
Okay.
I think Duke's 6-2 on the year. They're not great. They're not terrible. They can muddy this game up a little bit. They can run the football. I don't trust Miami's run defense. I got the revenge of the old coach. Duke plus 21.5. Your lock of the week.
Okay.
You don't like that. You don't feel confident over there.
I don't know.
I thought I announced it very confidently. I don't have any confidence right now, but I'm trying to sound confident.
That bounce back, I don't know. You're trying to bounce back. I'm not sure about that one.
That's not the place to do it. No, it's about to kick off. We can all make fun of me. We got an hour and a half left in the show. By the time we're done, that game will be like 35-0 Miami, and I'll call myself an idiot. The Lock of the Week brought to you by Legends Casino Hotel in Toppenish. Legends Casino Hotel, within winning distance, online, legendscasino.com. Let's get to our keys to the game, dive back into this matchup as we get closer. Oregon and Michigan, 3.5 hours from now, right here on The Fan on CBS if you're watching on TV. We got a whole bunch of games that are about to kick off around the country, so keep it here. We'll keep you up to date on everything going on. That Miami-Duke game is about to start. We got Penn State, Ohio State with Big Ten title implications, so there is a lot going on here early on a college football Saturday, and we're here to navigate through all of it. The keys of the game coming up next, but now it is time for next game day. Weather every 10 minutes, brought to you by Victor Rico's Mexican Food. Order Victor Rico's for your game day celebration in store or online for pickup or delivery at victorricos.com. Here's Jeff Rust.
47, mostly cloudy here in Portland, 48 and sunny in Ann Arbor. Ducks game day forecast calls for cloudy skies this morning with rain beginning this afternoon and continuing overnight. A low of 48 for the 12:30 kick at the Big House, sunny and 53. It'll get down to the mid, possibly even low 40s by the final horn. I'm Jeff Rust with Ducks game day weather every 10 minutes, brought to you by Victor Rico's Mexican Food.
Do you have 3 ex-wives and your current
Ducks, brought to you on The Fan by Audi Wilsonville, offering unmatched service to help you find the perfect car. Online at AudiWilsonville.com.
All right, take a look at the keys to the game. Oregon and Michigan getting closer and closer, 12:30 right here on The Fan. We'll take a look at the Big Ten here in a moment. What's going on in the conference? Big one about to kick off out in Pennsylvania. Big noon kickoff, Ohio State, Penn State with Big Ten title implications. So we'll let you know how that game is starting, and we'll preview that and the rest of the conference here in a moment. When I look at this matchup, Anthony, keys to the game today, what's the first thing that comes to mind for you of something that Oregon either has an advantage of or needs to do well in order to get a win on the road?
I think Oregon needs to play great defense up front.
Yeah.
Control the running game because Michigan's going to try to run the football. They have to keep Oregon offense off the field, so they're going to control the clock, run the football, get the first downs, move the chains. So the Oregon defensive line, they got to show up. And that's why I was talking about Jordan Bird should be a nice addition if he can help out today and play with this big body because Michigan's offensive line is huge. And then I'm thinking about the Oregon receivers. Be explosive against the DBs. You got a replacement for Will Johnson, the one of the best corners in the nation. He's not playing. Miles Pollard, the backup. Go after him. Tez Johnson,
go attack
him. Yeah. Exactly right.
Yeah, I would say on that note, on the offensive side, I think John Jansen, when we went behind enemy lines here a moment ago, touched on it. If Oregon is to lose this game today, part of it is, yes, Michigan has elite players on defense that they can, bottle up the run game maybe a little bit, make you one-dimensional. That's their whole goal in order to try and win. But if they're actually going to pull off instead of just making it close and pull off the upset, they need help from Oregon.
Yeah, yes.
And one of my biggest keys is don't help them.
Well, yeah.
And and I know that's a simple thing in every football game you look at. Penalties, turnovers, the things that plagued Oregon early in the season that they have mostly cleaned up. Gabriel's had a weird turnover every now and then, airmail a ball or throw one, and you're kind of like, what are you looking at there? But he's very reliable and very clutch in big games, and I do kind of view this as a big environment. So I don't have a huge fear that that's going to happen. But we saw him a couple weeks ago against Michigan State throw a couple of picks in the red zone. Those or you turn it over and you give Michigan a short field. Now they only need to go 25 yards to score a touchdown, not 75 yards to go a touchdown. That's how you give an offense life that doesn't have any life, and that's how you allow a team with a good defense to hang around in this game. Don't do anything to hurt yourself on offense, and you win this game comfortably.
Dan Lanning is telling his team, okay, don't beat yourself. No one can beat us in the country.
Nope.
No one.
Nope.
But we can beat ourselves. And that's, you just talked about that. That's what's going to happen. So, Dylan Gabriel, be smarter. Be more focused. Don't try to make that great throw and all of a sudden it gets picked. Offensive linemen, penalties, personal fouls, things like that. Don't fumble the kickoff return, the punt return.
Right.
So you don't beat yourself. If you just play straight up football, you'll win the game.
There's not a world that Michigan wins without getting a lot of help from Oregon in this matchup.
Correct, exactly right.
And I think the
Just
note
keep calling the touchdown play too.
The touchdown play would help as well. I like calling the touchdown play. I think we should do it more often, to be honest with you. We didn't call it enough in the second half last week, Rust. But on that note with Gabriel too, like these are one of those games that I would love to remind him in that locker room of. The offense on the other side of the field is not good. So, sometimes I know quarterbacks don't like to do it, and you never want to admit defeat. Sometimes punting's okay.
That's right.
And you find yourself in hey, it's 3rd and long. All right, here comes one of their elite edge rushers, and all right, just go down. Just go down. Throw the ball away, go down, whatever. Make their offense consistently go 75, 80 yards.
That's right.
And if you do that, they will not score 20 points on
you.
Yes. So it's just one of those reminders of I know that you get aggressive and, hey, it's 3rd and 7. I'm trying to make something happen here, but you're on your own 41-yard line and you throw a pick and he runs it down to the 27. All of a sudden, short field crowd. Smart football at times. And I think Oregon's offense will be able to function without Will Johnson. I think they're going to air it out early in the game. But just one of those reminders for a quarterback of remember the time, situation, opponent, and all that of this is an offense that doesn't play with one arm tied behind their back. They play with two arms tied behind their back. They can't move the ball on anybody, man. They can't throw it. They struggle to run it. So don't give them any life. And that's just a reminder of, hey, just be smart with the football today. And Gabriel, if he does that, Oregon will win. And so there are your Audi Wilsonville keys to the game. They offer unmatched service to help you find the perfect car online, AudiWilsonville.com. Hey, what's going on in the Big Ten? We got a big one that's just about to kick off out at Penn State. We've got a quarterback injury news on that front. As we know, the starter now for Ohio State. We'll take a look at the rest of the conference, including Washington and USC, coming up later tonight, one of the few evening games here on the West Coast. The Big Ten preview is next, but now it's time for Ducks Game Day West. weather every 10 minutes, brought to you by Victor Rico's Mexican Food. Order Victor Rico's for your game day celebration in-store or online for pickup or delivery at victorricos.com. Here's Jeff Russ.
It is 47, mostly cloudy here in Portland, 49 and sunny in Ann Arbor. The Ducks game day forecast calls for cloudy skies this morning with rain beginning this afternoon and continuing into the wee hours. A high of 54 today. For the 12:30 kick at the Big House, sunny and 53. It'll get down to the mid, possibly low 40s by the final horn. I'm Jeff Rust with Ducks game day weather every 10 minutes, brought to you by Victor Rico's Mexican Food.
It's time to take a look at this big, beautiful coast-to-coast conference.
4 Big Ten teams, they will benefit. I can't wait for it.
This is the Big Ten Preview. A look at the conference schedule on the Odyssey app. And your home for Oregon Ducks football. 1080, The Fan.
All right, let's take a look at the Big Ten today as the biggest game in the conference is about to kick off. This was one of those days at the start of the year when the schedule came out, we all kind of circled like, ooh, showdown Saturday in the Big Ten. You got Penn State, Ohio State. You got Oregon, Michigan. Now, Michigan has not been the team that maybe some thought coming into the year, so a little bit of the luster has gone from that game, not for Duck fans, but for people around the country. Not the case. You got the number 3 team and the number 4 team about to kick off in Ohio State and Penn State, and I got to be honest with you, man. I look at this game all week, and I want to say I like Penn State to cover. They're a 3.5-point underdog. I don't have any feel on this game. Ohio State makes no sense to me right now. And do we really trust? Can James Franklin finally win a big game? He always loses these. It's a something's got to give game. But I'm genuinely excited. We'll have it on. We'll give you a score update. It's just about to kick off. I got no feel for this one. You got a feel on Ohio State, Penn State?
I like Penn State. Yeah. I think Penn State. Ohio State's not the same. Something's missing. And then Will Howard, he's so pumped up for this game, the quarterback for Ohio State, because he's from there.
Pennsylvania kid.
Yes, and he wanted to go to Penn State. Now he's all mad.
Yeah.
Now he's going to maybe try too hard. Okay, you start to go, I want this game. And then all of a sudden now you're playing too tight. I think Penn State's going to. I think Penn State's going to win this football game. I really do.
It's interesting you bring that up. It's been kind of in my mental notes for a while now. But there was something Lanning said after the Ohio State win, and it came out in like the game recaps or whatever. It was his pregame speech, postgame speech, where he said, and I don't know if this was a callback to last year and the way they lost the Washington games. But essentially, the more emotional team is not going to win. It's one thing to want it. It's one thing we're all jacked up and fired up. It's emotions don't win football games. Executing wins football games. And I don't know if he was looking to last year's team of saying they wanted it so bad in the Pac-12 title game, and that's why they came out maybe little kind of uncomfortable, and they weren't making plays early. And that's what he hammered home the week of the Ohio State game is you can want it all you want. You can be emotional. That's fine. Execution is what's going to win this game, and you got to go execute to do it.
He's so right, because my ninth grade teacher, excuse me, my ninth grade football coach, we were in the locker room yelling and screaming, banging our heads on the locker. Yeah, let's go. He goes, hey, all that yelling? No, come on. Let's just go play. And guess what? We got beat 50-0. Well, I think banging our heads on the lockers like that.
Did nothing, man.
Like we're playing the lockers. Right. You know? Like, what are they going? Come on.
Show that locker whose boss is what you did, man.
Hey, we didn't execute it.
No, you got to execute. Yeah. And you can be as fired up to your point on Will Howard. You can be fired up all you want. But that game is Penn State's got the ball first, so we'll let you know how that plays out. Drew Aller, by the way, their starting quarterback, got hurt last week against Wisconsin. He is playing today, so he's in the starting lineup, and we'll see how healthy or functioning he is. He's not a guy that moves a ton. He's a more of a pro-style quarterback. So Penn State, Ohio State just kicked off. Let's take a look at the rest of the Big Ten today. Do you got to feel this is another one of those games like something's got to give? Both these teams love finding ways to lose. I don't trust either of them as far as I could throw them. You got a feel in USC Washington later tonight?
Oh, come on.
Couple of 4-4 squads. The loser of this game is going to be hard-pressed to make a bowl game. USC a slightly better chance. You look at Washington's schedule. They lose today at USC. They got to go on the road to Penn State next week. They got a road trip to Oregon at the end of the year. Now, you got a home game against UCLA. You should win. But if you lose today, you're going to have to beat Penn State or Oregon on the road to get to a bowl game. I don't think that's happening. And USC very similar. So the loser of this game, hard time making a bowl.
USC is going to win this football game. Washington is done.
You think so?
They're done.
Yeah.
Like I said, they were done before the season started because all the coaches took off, all the players took off.
What'd you call them, cockroaches?
Everybody
just scattered.
When you turn on the lights and open the door, they all just took off. They ran.
That's the highlight of the year,
That's what happened
man.
to the football team.
That is the highlight of the year so far. Oh, my God. Minnesota, Illinois just kicked off. That is an early game. Northwestern, Purdue also off to an early start. 3-0 Northwestern, Purdue, if anybody cares about that. I know I don't, but they are in the Big Ten, and Oregon's in the Big Ten. Later on today, just circle I don't know how many people will flip over to Peacock and watch it because it's on at the same time as Oregon, Michigan. Track the score of Indiana, Michigan State. Just keep an eye on that.
Yeah, interesting.
Michigan State's not as bad as I thought they were going to be. They probably should have beaten Michigan last weekend. I watched a chunk of that game, especially late. Aiden Childs will turn the ball over a ton. I know Rourke, the starter for Indiana, is back. He missed the game last week, but they got to go on the road. That'll be a juiced-up place, top 15-ish team. I just keep an eye on that one. That one's on at the same time. You got UCLA, Nebraska at 12:30 on the Big Ten Network, and your NBC primetime game is Wisconsin, Iowa. How many punts do we see in that game? I can't wait. The over-under is 41.5. Catch the fever.
41.5 punts?
Yeah. You're not going to hit the over if you have 41.5 punts. Yeah, 41.5 over-under is the number in that game. Unders in Iowa games usually end up fitting together. Before we hear from Dan Lanning, I do want to bring up one quick note on the schedule today. Can somebody explain to me, you guys know what happens tonight to your clocks? You know what's going to happen at 2 o'clock in the morning?
Fall back.
We're falling back tonight.
That's right.
You get an extra hour of sleep tonight.
That's right.
There is not a single college football game that kicks off after 5 o'clock today. What? Pacific time. Not a single game.
How does that happen?
On the night that we fall back. If there's ever a night to be like, hey, there's a game that kicks off at 8, but I'll stay up and watch it because I get an extra hour of sleep. Tonight's the night to do it.
Wow, that's a scheduler fail.
Who screwed that up? This should have been the fallback Saturday night special.
Right, yeah.
Give me a 9 p.m. kick. Give me something to watch tonight. What am I supposed to do? Spend time with my family?
Yeah, we need to have like 7 games to choose from at 7:30.
Yeah, no, I mean, go look. So because I saw somebody bring this up, and I'm like, there's got to be like a random Hawaii, Fresno State, some random game at 7 o'clock, right? And I'm scrolling, like, no, the last games of the night to kick off: Colorado State, Nevada, 5 o'clock; TCU, Baylor, 5 o'clock; and Pittsburgh and SMU, 5 o'clock. Not a single Pac-12, Big 12, ACC, not a single after dark game at 7 o'clock tonight.
Interesting.
Yeah, it sucks. So you can get an extra sleep. Maybe watch a Christmas movie tonight. Are you guys into Christmas mode yet? Move on from Halloween?
Not yet.
Come on, man.
Not yet.
You get your tree up yet? No? Yeah, 2 days. What have you been doing, Anthony? Come on, man. Let's go. It's November.
I love it.
There's your Big Ten preview. Let's hear from the head coach of the Oregon Ducks, Dan Lanning. He did not join Isaac and Suk this week because of the travel. They left on Thursday to get out to Ann Arbor. But we got some of his post-practice comments, how he's feeling about his team going into the showdown in Ann Arbor today. The head coach of the Oregon Ducks, Dan Lanning, is next on 1080 The Fan.
Day. Mountain cold refreshment. Choose chill. Celebrate responsibly. It's time for the Unitas Community Credit Union Coaches Corner. Comments from Oregon coach Dan Lanning with Isaac and Sue. Brought to you by Unitas Community Credit Union. Join the team at Unitas Community Credit Union to help you reach your financial goals.
Oregon's a unique school in a sense that it becomes a school that a lot of kids consider their dream school, but they might be thousands of miles away. A great example how the brand resonates throughout the United States.
The Ducks Coaches Corner with Isaac and Suk on the Odyssey app and 1080 The Fan.
Good day from our guys today. Good competitive practice. Finishing off with red zone there again, like we normally do on Wednesdays. So positive. We'll go from there.
How's Jeff been able to improve in pass coverage specifically?
Yeah, he's put a lot of time and effort into it. Right, he's become much better at distinguishing what routes he's going to get based on splits, understanding the leverage he has in each coverage.
Mario, some of his stats don't really show what he does in the field. From when you got him out of the portal to now, what have you been most pleased with from his development?
Yeah, just his work ethic every day, and obviously he's a really hard guy to block. It's created a lot of havoc for us up front, whether it's him actually getting the credit for that or him actually creating that. So he's created a lot of made it tough for the opponent.
I feel like you guys have stayed on schedule offensively on first and second down.
Say it again.
How do you feel like you guys have stayed on schedule first and second down offensively?
Yeah, just successful plays, right? I think we've identified what creates a successful play and making sure that we're in position to execute it. I think Coach Stein's also called a really good game to put us in position to do that.
Is the plan right now for both Boyle and Sapping to continue to have roles on both kickoffs?
Yeah, absolutely.
How is Jordan going about establishing himself the way he has been? Where obviously Bucky was moving on, you knew to be leaning on him, but on pace certainly to be a 1,000-yard rusher and had 20-plus touches 3 straight games. Even Bucky didn't get to do that. But
yeah, just working. Yeah, he's just worked, and he's proven his his effort and his value. Shown up when you're productive on the field, you're going to continue to get opportunities.
Do you know Wink Martindale at all prior to?
No, I know of him and followed him, but don't know him personally.
Just get the defensively when you get to play in a little bit of a smaller, more compact box. What is that?
What do you mean exactly?
Well,
field's the same size.
If an offense is challenged, let's say, to be able to stretch the field vertically, what does it allow a defense to do if you can play in a little bit more compacted area?
I think anytime that you're playing an offense that runs the ball well, you have to decide if you're going to steal a hat for the run, right? And that's something that is always a challenge.
It's always important defensively on first down, but this week even more.
No, same importance. Win first down.
Penalties were really good this year. They've gotten a lot better since then. When you kind of attribute that to
just a level of focus from our players. Realize that we can't hurt ourselves.
Mike Hill headed to a possible return?
Yeah, possibly. We'll see. We continue to assess where he's at and feel it out.
Is it an all-or-nothing proposition for a hardship waiver in this case? If he returns, is that off the table? Or?
No, I mean, but we'll have to evaluate it. Appreciate it.
Dan Lanning's appearances are brought to you by Unitas Community Credit Union. Like a coach's playbook, Unitas has a winning strategy for your finances. You, us, Unitas. It's 48 and mostly cloudy here in Portland, 49 sunny in Ann Arbor. Ducks game day forecast calls for cloudy skies this morning with rain beginning this afternoon and continuing into the wee hours of the morn. A high of 54 today for the 12:30 kick at the Big House. Sunny and 53. It'll get down to the mid, possibly low 40s by the final horn. I'm Jeff Rust with Ducks game day weather every 10 minutes, brought to you by Victor Rico's Mexican Food. Order Victor Rico's for your game day celebration in store or online for pickup or delivery at victorricos.com.
Don't let cold season make you miserable.
All right, time to talk some recruiting here on the pregame show. Joining us now, Andrew Nimick, at Andrew Nimick on Twitter. Go give him a follow, Director of Recruiting, high school on SI. You can hear him every Thursday right here on The Fan, 7 to 8 p.m. He is our recruiting insider at The Fan. Nimick, good morning to you. A lot of people struggling with excitement for this game, just looking at Michigan of like, that offense is so bad. To me, it's more of a nostalgia play, the symbolism of what a win would mean, and then also the recruiting impact of a win that like today would have. Not that people are expecting Michigan to win that game. I'm just curious what kind of impact a win in Ann Arbor, considering the kind of kids that Oregon's going after and the bigger footprint that they maybe have now in the Big Ten. How big of a deal is today from a recruiting standpoint?
Well, I think it matters. Michigan's loading up this weekend, so they certainly are having a huge weekend this weekend, hosting the number one team in the country. But I think everybody needs to kind of take a step back when we talk about Oregon versus Michigan. We go, oh, man, their offense isn't that great. And like, well, it's at the big house, but, they're not great right now. Oregon is playing Michigan at Michigan, and Oregon is so good right now and is in such a good spot right now that's kind of a ho-hum to fans. That's incredible.
Right.
Michigan won back-to-back national titles. So the fact that it's just like, take it or leave it, it's Michigan, their offense is great. That speaks to just how good a place Oregon's in. And I think sometimes, there's a saying about like not enjoying the good times until they're already gone. I wish I knew I was in the good times. This is the good times, Oregon fans. Yeah. So enjoy it. And if you're pretty comfortable going into a game at Michigan going, gosh, I kind of feel like this is going to be a breeze today. That's a good place to be.
No doubt about that. I had that thought last week when the stat was floating around the last time Oregon got to number one in 2013 or whatever it was. It lasted all of 1 week. 2014 lasted 1 week, and they lost the very next week. So it's like, hey, we've already made it longer than we did last time we were number one. And made it to 2 weeks. That's a good sign. I did want to ask you, because I know it's a road trip for Oregon, so they obviously don't have kids in town and stuff. One of the things that we've been talking about on the show this morning and throughout the week is the depth being on display. And I think that really highlights how well Lanning has recruited and how well they've developed guys. What have you made of like guys like Justice Lowe, who we don't even talk a ton about, now filling a big void, or Amari Washington stepping in on the defensive line, like Kenyon Sadiq, who I remember you raving about when he was coming out. That depth really feels like it's been on display and stronger than it has ever been in Eugene right now.
Well, that's what recruiting does for you. And people keep saying and coming back to like, well, so-and-so was a 3-star. The fact is, and Matrix Analytical has talked about this too, when you look at it, the team that recruits better than the team they're playing wins at about a 72% clip in college football. Wow. It's a better indicator than home field advantage. It's a better indicator than so many things. If you look at who's the best team in any given conference, who has the best record, the best winning percentage over the last 4 years, the number one team in every conference is the team that recruited the best over that 4 years. The number two team in every conference is the team that finished second recruiting every year. Wow. The number 3 team in every conference is the team that recruited number 3. It's literally, and Dave Bartu's talked about this, it's literally linear. Recruiting is linear to your success. So what have I been saying when I've been on this show for a number of years now? Oregon's recruiting is really good. And as you stack those, your depth gets better. Because yes, the occasional 3-star hits. But if your blue chip ratio is really high, if 70% of your roster is 4- and 5-star guys, they just do. They just hit more often. So because you have more hits on your roster, you have more continuity on your roster, which gives you more time to develop those guys. In other words, you're not bringing in 3-stars that aren't developing and then they transfer out. They're staying. They're good players. So they've been in your system, they trust your system, and they're good. And so you stack that over 3, 4, 5 years, and that's where you see the kind of depth that Oregon has now. I talked too about in the Cristobal era, I said their front 7 recruiting is not good.
No.
And then Dan Lanning got there, and I said right away, what did he emphasize? The front 7. Where does Oregon look so much different than they really have at any other point? We've seen Oregon with a Heisman quarterback, Heisman caliber quarterback. We've seen Oregon with good running backs and receivers. We've seen Oregon with a good O-line. But we're seeing Oregon with an elite defense, and that's what Dan Lanning emphasized. And that was his mission statement and his goal when he got hired. I'll bring your defense to the level that Oregon's traditionally their offense is at. And here we're seeing the results. Number 1 in the country, and yawn, they're playing Michigan at Michigan, and it should be a smooth path.
Oh, I love that. Anything pressing on the recruiting trail? I know they had some guys in town last week. I haven't seen much on just kind of the reaction from those guys. They're obviously on the road this week, so no big visits. I know it's a big recruiting weekend, as you mentioned, for Michigan. Just anything pressing or going on top of the hopper right now in Oregon recruiting?
Yeah, I predicted that they'll flip Vanderfleet. We talked about that, the Washington commit. I said I thought that would happen. Now the whole industry's there with that one. One of the interesting ones, Andrew Olish is the number 3 tight end in America. He's committed to Michigan. He just visited Oregon. I keep an eye on that, given that Oregon's playing Michigan. If this game, and I'm not saying it will be, but if it is a rout, I wonder if that makes him think a little bit. If Sadiq has a touchdown, if the tight ends play well, I wonder if that kind of keeps Oregon in the mix. The other thing is Jakeem Stewart's the number 1 defensive lineman in the country. He's going to visit Oregon again in November, and this is turning into a very real battle for Oregon to land Jakeem Stewart. This was a kid that was the number 1 recruit in the country in 2026. He reclassified, and a lot of people still have him as a top 5 player in the nation, going against guys a year older. Jakeem Stewart, it's going to be Oregon, it's going to be Ohio State, LSU, USC are also trying to stay in the mix, but definitely something to watch. Oregon may still add another 5-star or 2 before it's all said and done.
That would be encouraging. We're just ho-humming, man. We're just ho-humming, enjoying the ride. We are in the good times. Let's just enjoy them as long as they possibly last. Andrew Nimick, our recruiting insider here on The Fan. You can hear him every Thursday, 7 to 8 p.m., recruiting director, high school on SI. Go give him a follow on Twitter, @Andrew Nimick. We always appreciate the time, buddy. We'll chat again next Saturday.
Of course, thanks.
There you go, Andrew Nimick with the recruiting update. A quick score update for you. If you're watching on YouTube, you saw my reaction. Will Howard just threw a pick 6. Penn State kicked a field goal on their opening drive. Will Howard, on the 3rd play of Ohio State's series after getting stuffed on 2 runs, threw a pick 6, and we have a halfway through the first quarter 10-0 lead.
Love it.
Penn State over Ohio State. We'll get to the whole Big Ten title picture here in a moment, because this is convoluted and it could be messy, and we'll see how that all plays out. But Penn State winning today would all but eliminate Ohio State from the Big Ten title game with 2 conference losses.
Yep.
And it would set up what would likely be an Oregon-Penn State game, but you never want to put the cart too in front of the horse, as they say. But a 10-0 lead early for Penn State over Ohio State. Let's reset things. I believe going to Ann Arbor next with Dusty Harris. Is that the plan? Okay, we're going to go to Ann Arbor. We'll get Dusty's thoughts on the game. He'll kind of set the scene for us. He's at the big house. That is all coming up next, but now it is time for Ducks Game Day weather every 10 minutes. Brought to you by Victor Rico's Mexican food. Order Victor Rico's for your game day celebration in-store or online for pickup or delivery at victorricos.com. Here's Jeff Rust.
It is 48, mostly cloudy here in Portland, 50 and sunny in Ann Arbor. The Ducks Game Day forecast calls for cloudy skies this morning with rain beginning this afternoon, continuing into the wee hours. Looking for a high of 54 today. For the 12:30 kick at the Big House, sunny and 53. It'll get down to the mid, possibly low 40s by the final horn. I'm Jeff Rust with Ducks Game Day weather every 10 minutes, brought to you by Victor Rico's Mexican food.
This holiday season, Straight Talk Wireless is letting you say yes a lot more with real unlimited data. Yes to sharing pics of the ugliest holiday sweaters. Yes to checking weather on the go for surprise sledding trips. And with a free phone at sign up, let the yes-tivities begin.
No way!
Yes way. Straight Talk, real unlimited data. Available at Walmart or straighttalk.com. Offer valid through 1/5/25 while supplies last at participating stores. Taxes and fees apply. Requires in-store activation on select single-line plans. Limit of 2 phones per customer. For network management practices, visit straighttalk.com.
Not to brag, but Progressive's Name Your Price tool is mankind's greatest tool ever. Even better than the wheel. Sure, without the wheel, we wouldn't have modern transportation or funny videos of dogs riding skateboards. But without the Name Your Price tool, we wouldn't have easy access to auto insurance options based on our budget. And, well, cars do need wheels. They also need insurance, and insurance never goes flat. Learn more about the greatest tool ever, the Name Your Price tool at Progressive.com. Progressive Casualty Insurance Company and Affiliates. Price and coverage match limited by state law. Not available in all states.
Ducks Game Day continues.
Looks middle, looks left, looks right. A lot of time, a lot of protection. Now we'll throw it. It's caught. Tez Johnson inside the outside of the 15 on a juke. To the 10, to the 5. He got to the pylon. Touchdown. Tez Johnson. Touchdown, Oregon.
Coors Light presents Ducks Game Day, an insider's preview of today's game between the Oregon Ducks and the Michigan Wolverines. Oregon Ducks football on 1080 The Fan is brought to you by Coors Light, Pacific Office Automation, Mods PDX, Victor Rico's Mexican Food, Legends Casino Hotel in Toppenish, by Zoom Care, Bellagio's Pizza, Multnomah County Behavioral Health Division, Audi Wilsonville, Laurelhurst Market, by Unitas Community Credit Union, and by Langdon Farms Golf Club. Now, here are your hosts, Andy Johnson, Dusty Hara, and former Ducks and NFL star Anthony Newman with Ducks Game Day on the Odyssey app and 1080 The Fan.
All right, welcome back in. We got about an hour to go for us before we send you out to Ann Arbor. Oregon, Michigan coming up at 12:30. My lock of the week was Duke covering the spread, and they're already down 14-0. Anthony pointed that out. I would like to note, though, on Miami's opening drive, Cam Ward threw what should have been an interception through the hands of a Duke DB and ended up being caught a touchdown. So I can't control if these guys are not going to make plays.
That's why he's playing DB.
Come on. That's exactly why he's playing DB. We're jacked for this one. We'll keep you up to date on all the scores going on around the country. Let's go out to Ann Arbor now. Dusty Hara, who, of course, is on the Fan every Monday through Friday, 12 to 3, sideline reporter for Oregon football, and a part of our pregame show. Dusty, good morning to you. Set the scene for me, man. What's the weather like? What's the vibe like? How's everybody out there in Ann Arbor feeling?
It's a beautiful day. It's about 50 degrees right now, not a cloud in the sky. They've got something that they do out here that is new to me. They've got probably 6 airplanes that are just circling the surrounding tailgate area, pulling banners.
Yeah.
So, I mean, you got High Noon, White Claws, Ford. I mean, they're all over the place. Energy's high, though. It was kind of a weird feeling in Ann Arbor last night because there was so many Michigan fans that were, like this is going to be a tough one for us. And I'm just sitting there going, you guys got 2 first-round picks in the middle of your defense.
Right.
I mean, and that's how we're feeling about this one. You got a really good running back, an NFL caliber running back in Donovan Edwards. I mean, the forward pass has been a struggle, but they got still a really good team. It's kind of interesting to see how deflated the Michigan fans are. But Duck fans showed out last night. We went out and walked down like the main street of Ann Arbor, and there were bars and restaurants just packed with Duck fans, including one that, when we walked by, they started a Go Ducks chant. Wow. Like one side of the bar Go, one side of the bar Ducks, and it was a little bit of a takeover. It'll be interesting to see how that looks in the midst of 107,000 people, but a lot of green and yellow down here already, though. It's a fun day.
It seems like a bucket list game. I mean, it's been almost 20 years since Oregon's played in Ann Arbor, 2007 being the last time. Did you have a chance to ask Will Stein this week if we will see a fake Statue of Liberty play?
No, I have not asked Will Stein about that, but look, they ran it twice in that game, and it was just, Jonathan, they gave it to Jay Stu on the first one, and then Dixon was able to run it in himself on the second one. Like, if you don't just kind of do the tip of the hat, we're doing something wrong here. I think we've got to see the Statue of Liberty. At least one of them.
Come on, man.
At least one.
You touched on something there, Dusty, though, that I've having a hard time with, and Anthony and I were talking about this a bit ago, that there is top-end talent on this defense that's some of the best in the country. And you look at mocks and player rankings and all that. I mean, even on the offensive side, you want to point to Edwards or the tight end. Like, there's really high-end talented players on this team. They just, for whatever reason, haven't been able to put it all together. Like, overall, defensively, their numbers are not dominant. They're not even, like, top 10 in a lot of categories, even in the Big Ten. But we know that the top-end talent is there. When you watch them, I'm just curious. Seems like they're playing better lately defensively, but what do you see from that side of the ball? Because I think we all know if this is going to be a game Michigan hangs around, their defense is going to have to play at a high level.
Yeah, and I mean, it's not just, Kenneth Grant and Mason Graham in the middle. Those two guys are plugs. But if you look at it, I think the last 3 games, they've had 6 or more tackles for loss. I mean, they're getting on the edges with guys like Josiah Stewart and Jayshawn Barham. Those guys on the edges in that linebacking core, they are playing far more aggressive. It's almost as if, like, defensively they just said, let's just pin our ears back and go. If we're going to be winning games, it's going to be because we create a little bit of havoc, right? Give your offense a short field, create some extra opportunities and extra possessions, and it's been looking a little bit different. I just don't know what to make of I think we all know this, and Anthony can speak to this. When you are and I can speak to it too, because when I was in college, we had an offense that was not very good, but our defense was really good. And it would get to a point in a game where your offense gets good field position, they get good opportunities, and then the defense plays for only so long, and then the dam breaks. And the defense is like, are you guys serious?
That's
you guys
what we
do
talked
anything?
about earlier.
Exactly.
Exactly.
And then there's that give up moment where you're just like, you know what? Screw this. We're out.
It's funny, Dusty. We were just talking about that earlier. Like, I've been on a team with an offense that can't move the ball, and I'm tired of being on the field.
I'm ready.
And then I'm thinking, third quarter, okay, I'm done.
It's like a tag team match. I'm tapping out, tapping my TV. You go on in, man.
Done. We made some plays. We're doing our part. Do your part.
Yeah.
What's going on? And you can't have a quarterback keep throwing picks and fumbling and everything. Like, no, okay, I'm done. This is a two-way streak here. It takes two.
It's like those tag team matches where the guy's in the figure 4 leg lock and he's reaching for his partner. His partner's going, no, man.
No.
You're going to have to figure this one out yourself.
No, really. Hey, I got a question for you. Talk about well, he's been a dude. Noah Winnington. He's been the guy. He got hurt. It took a while to kind of get in his groove. Last week this kid was running, and the run that he just ran over that guy. Talk about now you got that old school, 2-back system where Jordan James, Noah Winnington, like last year, but Noah Winnington looked like he found his groove. It looked like he understands, okay, this is my part, this is what I'm going to do, knowing he can catch the ball out of the backfield. I think he's playing great at the best time of year.
Yeah, and look, a guy that you played with, a guy you coach with now, Alex Molden, he had kind of the similar thing where you have a major knee injury, you work your butt off, you get back. There also is this element of you have to get to a point where you trust that knee again,
yep.
Right? And you have to get to the point where it's like, no, I can do this. I can be back to normal. And I give this Oregon coaching staff a ton of credit because what they did was they knew who Noah Whittington is because we saw who Noah Whittington was last year. And in that Colorado game, he was trucking dudes, and he was an explosive force offensively. And they knew that he had it within him. And it wasn't pretty for long stretches this season. But I think in that Purdue game, we started to see it unlock a little bit. And then all of a sudden we saw in Illinois and Noah Whittington that he finally trusts his body again. His body's not going to let him down. And that's a tough hurdle for anybody who goes through a major knee injury like that to get through is, all right, can I do all the things that I used to do? And now that he found that physicality again, my goodness. I mean, that unlocks a lot for this offense because one thing that he is really good at, not just running the football and direct handoffs, he's good out of the backfield too, and a safety valve for Dylan Gabriel. And when this offense is the most explosive, it's when, those backs out, they run that rail route or they sneak off into the flat or they ran that little gut route up the middle. It is explosive because then you have to go, all right, where's Terrence Ferguson? Where's Kenyon Sadiq? Where's Evan Stewart? Where's, Tez Johnson? And then you go, oh, yeah, by the way, you got a back out that can catch the ball and run us all over. That makes this offense exponentially more scary. And it's really cool to see a guy who's worked through it, has gone through it, and we're starting to see him come out on the other side of it because on the flip side of it, there are guys that sometimes it just doesn't come back. But the last 2 weeks, I think we've seen that explosion back from Noah.
I think he was listening to the pregame show last weekend when I wondered if it's time to change the rotation in the backfield, and he took that personally and lived up to the hype. Man, that truck at the goal line was one of the best highlights of the year. We'll let you go, Dusty. We have a great call, my man. I can't wait to see what the atmosphere looks like. Look forward to listening to the broadcast, and we'll see you again next Saturday. Thanks, buddy.
Hey, no problem. Guys, I promise you, there's a lot of Ducks fans. It may not look like it. There's a lot of seats here. They weren't lying. Like, the Big House is not just a cute name. There's a lot of places to sit here.
It's a big-ass stadium, man. Have a great call, buddy. Thanks, Dusty.
All right. Have a good one, fellas.
There you go. Dusty Hara live from Ann Arbor. He'll be on the call here, and we'll send it to those guys coming up in about 45 minutes as we begin the second hour of Ducks Game Day on the Fan, presented by Coors Light Mountain Cold Refreshment. Choose, chill, celebrate responsibly. We'll give you a score update. We got a new one in the Ohio Ohio State-Penn State game, let you know how that's going. Take a look at the rest of the games around the country in a quick little segment. That is next on 1080 The Fan.
.49 and mostly cloudy here in Portland, 51 and sunny in Ann Arbor. Ducks game day forecast calls for cloudy skies this morning with rain beginning this afternoon, continuing into the early hours of tomorrow morning. High of 54 today. For the 12:30 kick at the Big House, sunny and 53. It'll get down to the mid, possibly even low 40s by the final horn. I'm Jeff Rust with Ducks Game Day weather every 10 minutes, brought to you by Victor Rico's Mexican Food. Order Victor Rico's for your game day celebration in-store or online for pickup or delivery at victorricos.com.
Coors Light presents Ducks Game Day. Mountain cold refreshment. Choose chill. Celebrate responsibly.
Now going to go deep. Boys got him down there. Catch made. Keep your balance. Touchdown, Oregon.
It's time for the Ducks Game Day scoreboard with previews and scores from around the country on your home for Oregon Ducks football, the Odyssey app, and 1080 The Fan.
All right, we'll take a look at the scores around the country as it is finally past the 9 a.m. hour here. We're hanging out. Andy Johnson, Anthony Newman with you for another 40 minutes or so. And we'll send you out to Ann Arbor. We told you it was a quick 10-0 lead for Penn State. Will Howard threw a pick six on Ohio State's opening drive. And Ohio State has responded with not only scoring a touchdown, they put a drive together, had a nice touchdown pass to Igbuka, I believe, and they just forced a 3-and-out. So all that early momentum for Penn State.
Really?
Here come the Nittany Lions, punting the ball right back. I think they even had a penalty on their third down play, but Aller just lobbed one up, incomplete pass. So they still got the 10-7 lead, but they are punting the ball back to Ohio State. And this could be a fun one this morning, man. I'm excited to get home and kind of plop down and watch the end of this.
One, yeah.
So a quick note on that. I know I don't want to go too long over. There's not that many other relevant scores other than my Duke Blue Devils, who just scored a touchdown, baby.
That.
Let's go, Duke! 14-7 in the first quarter. And you got Ole Miss is beating Arkansas right now, 7-3. Rest of the games, whatever. I did want to get to this so quickly because we had a listener ask about it. And people watching this Ohio State-Penn State game, hey, who do I root for? How does the conference title game tiebreaker situation play out? Here's how it looks. So in the Big Ten title game, there are no more divisions, so it's two best teams that are going to go. If there are three teams tied with the same record, which there is a possibility that happens, you will immediately go to head-to-head matchups. In this scenario, you would imagine to be three undefeated teams, Oregon, Penn State, Indiana. If that happens, it would then go to their record against common conference opponents. And then everybody would be undefeated. So that is in the next tiebreaker. You go down. It would eventually get to the teams would be compared based on their record against common opponent with the best conference record. So in this theory, that would be Ohio State, who Oregon, Penn State, and Indiana all play this year. And by that metric, the third tiebreaker, Oregon beat Ohio State by 1 point. I'm assuming if this scenario plays out, Penn State and Indiana would beat them. You can't beat a team by less than 1 point.
Right.
So maybe they tie and they beat them also by 1 point. But if they beat them by more than 1 point, that would then give them the tiebreaker over Oregon. There is a world that exists in which Oregon is the undefeated number one team in the country and does not play in a Big Ten championship game.
That is crazy.
Just want to file that away. So if you're wondering who to root for, if you don't want to play Ohio State game, again, you're rooting for Penn State, but then you got to root for Indiana to lose, which I think that they will, but again, nothing is a guarantee.
Yeah.
So that's that. We had a listener ask about that earlier. This is what you get with 18-team conferences with no divisions.
Really?
You got to get funky with your tiebreakers, and that's what they're trying to do. So I wouldn't be shocked either if that happened. You would get an immediate redraw of the tiebreakers to say highest ranked college football playoff, the two highest ranked teams
yes.
in this scenario. That's the Big Ten does not want Penn State, Indiana on their title game.
No.
They would want in that scenario Oregon and Penn State for eyeballs and attention and all that. So just something to file away depending on your rooting interest for today. But 10-7, Penn State's got the lead early over Ohio State, and that's really the only relevant game on this morning. Miami Duke 14-7, Ole Miss Arkansas. That's a 7-3 game with Ole Miss driving at the end of the first half. Let's see, what do we got coming up next? The game to watch, that is next. You got the Oregon Ducks pregame show live on 1080 The Fan. Coming up next, the game to watch.
Night. A high of 54 today for the 12:30 kick at the Big House. Sunny and 53. It'll get down to the mid, possibly low 40s by the final horn. I'm Jeff Russ with Ducks Game Day weather every 10 minutes, brought to you by Victor Rico's Mexican Food. Order Victor Rico's for your game day celebration in store or online for pickup or delivery at victorricos.com.
Did you know each year auto
watching right now.
Yeah,
Ohio State, Penn State. We'll keep you up to date on that over the next 35 minutes. But outside of that, buddy, if we don't use the Oregon game in this example, what's the game that you're most excited to maybe not watch because it's on at the same time as another game, but just curious to see how it all plays out?
The Indiana-Michigan State.
Yeah.
I mean, Indiana, they're undefeated.
They are undefeated. They are. They keep winning.
But, I'm looking at their schedule. Like, who have you played?
They do not have a win over a team ranked in the top 25.
No. And, but, they beat some teams. Nebraska 56-7.
Yeah.
Ouch.
Yeah.
UCLA 42-13, but UCLA's doo-doo. They beat Washington 31-17
with their backup quarterback last week.
But Washington, all the kids are gone. Everybody
they're
left.
doo-doo also.
Yeah, they are.
Wait, Indiana?
I'm with you on that. I mean, for the scenario that we just talked about as well, like I don't know how this Penn State-Ohio State game is going to end. If Ohio State wins, they got a great chance to get back to the Big Ten title game. But if they don't, that scenario is out there where Indiana wins out. I don't think Indiana's going to beat Ohio State in Columbus, but I also didn't think they were going to beat 8-0 or whatever they are right now.
That's true.
I'm with you on that game, man. I'm fascinated to see. I think Michigan State's got a great chance to pull off that upset
and Michigan
today.
State's playing better now.
They are.
They're playing better.
Young team that's got better as the year has gone on. I love that game. I'll give you one other one, just kind of looking at the slate, because it's an interesting day where there's not a lot of necessarily marquee games, but there's a lot of chances for upsets. And teams potentially going down. I'll just give you one that I'm curious of. 4:30, the primetime game on ABC. Texas A&M at South Carolina. I think there's a great Texas A&M's off of a big emotional win over LSU last week.
Yeah.
Came back big in the second half. Everybody's patting you on the back. Hey, you got a chance to win the SEC this year. You got to go on the road to Columbia, South Carolina, a very tough place to play.
Yes, it is.
That's just a quick turnaround off an emotional win Saturday night game.
That's
so
a good point.
I think that one to me that's kind of an elimination game a bit for Texas A&M, although they'd be a 2-loss team, so still have an outside chance of making the playoff for the SEC title game. But that's one that I'm circling to keep an eye on tonight. The 4:30 primetime game, South Carolina hosting Texas A&M. Let's hear from Joey Harrington. He joins Isaac and Suk every single Friday. What are his thoughts on this matchup and a team that Oregon has played a couple of times historically? Nobody can forget the early 2000 game, the 2007 game, some memorable matchups against Michigan over the years. Joey Harrington, he's going to hop on. We're going to hear from him coming up next on 1080 The Fan.
It is 49 and mostly cloudy here in Portland, 51 and sunny in Ann Arbor. Ducks game day forecast calls for cloudy skies this morning, rain beginning this afternoon and continuing into the early morning hours. A high of 54 today. For the 12:30 kick at the Big House, sunny and 53. It'll get down to the mid, maybe even low 40s by the final horn. I'm Jeff Russ with Ducks game day weather every 10 minutes, brought to you by Victor Rico's Mexican Food. Order Victor Rico's for your game day celebration in store or online for pickup or delivery at victorricos.com.
Your home for Oregon Ducks football is KFXX KWJJ HD2 Portland.
He's got the speed. He's going to score.
1080 The Fan, an Odyssey sports station. Now let's preview the game with a Ducks legend.
That's very kind of you to say. I would call myself somebody who's been around for a long time and wants to tell some nice stories.
Here with Isaac and Souk on The Fan is Joey Harrington. Brought to you by Mods PDX. The future of building is here.
14.5-point spread? I don't know.
It's weird.
It's an odd one. Where is the patented Joe Harrington worry meter this week?
6.
Okay.
It's a little higher.
It's higher than Illinois.
It's a touch higher than 50-50. You know, it's not like it's just meh. You know, we're still going to the Big House. We're still going to Michigan the first week of November. We're still, you know, playing in front of 100,000 people. Like there's I don't think they're okay. I'm trying to think of how to do this comparison. You know, we talked about Illinois a couple weeks ago. I think Illinois is probably a less talented football team that is playing better football as a team that we played at home. Michigan is probably a more talented football team that is dealing with more crap that we're playing on the road.
Yeah.
You know, which would you rather be? I mean, I don't know. I've said it all year. Like, not that I'm overlooking this Michigan game, but this Oregon team is so incredibly talented that if they play the way they're capable of, this shouldn't be a game. Like, it should be a, 31-13 kind of game. The one that I'm looking at is Wisconsin in a couple weeks. Like, that is, again, we're almost getting to the point where we start having the conversation about what happens to kids' emotions at the end of November. Like, but we're not to the end of November yet. It's still, we're still just getting out of October. So there's still a little bit of playfulness, but there's still a little bit of fun still left in the season. Right? It's not stress, and it's not pulling your hair out, and it's not, oh my God, if we lose, the world is going to end, like it's going to be in a couple of weeks. So, I mean, I think all of those things put together is going to lead to a situation where we probably beat them by, 3 touchdowns.
Do you think it's easier Oregon is an elite team this year, but do you think it's easier to go unscathed against these teams like the Michigans and Illinois that are built in the Iowas? The Big Ten has a lot of these teams that are like this, that really aren't much offensively, but they're tough. They run the ball. They play defense. Do you think that's easier to go unscathed in that league than, say, in the Pac-12 where you've got all these different archetypes, like more high-powered offenses?
Potentially. I mean, but we're also making the assumption that Oregon's high-powered offense is inherently better than all of those great defenses, right? I think that this year is the ultimate test of the Pac-12 versus the Big Ten, right? It answers that question. Like, would I rather play Washington State or Michigan right now? I think I'd rather play Michigan than Washington State.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, to be honest, you start throwing, and I'm just talking about right now. God, you start throwing those teams like, the Mike Leach teams that. I don't know that I want to be playing those teams in mid-November. There doesn't seem to be as much of a threat from them as much as it is like we as a team just have to hold up our end, if that makes sense.
All right, you guys enjoy it. I'll let you get back to your charmed life, and we'll talk to you next week.
Yeah, well, I'm going to go put my phone on.
All right, see you, Joey. That is our friend Joey Harrington, courtesy of Mods PDX. The future of building is here.
If you're considering new construction and want it done right,
Choose chill. Celebrate responsibly.
Oh, what a throw. What a catch. What a catch. Terrence Ferguson.
Pacific Office Automation presents The Clear Advantage. A look at the players and units that match up well for the Ducks. Pacific Office Automation has your office game plan. Visit them today for a full technology assessment at pacificoffice.com.
You're going to hear from Mike Jorgensen coming up in a moment. Color analyst of the Ducks will go back out to Ann Arbor. About 24 minutes for us left, and we'll send all of you out to Ann Arbor. Oregon and Michigan coming up at 12:30. Score update for you quickly. Penn State had that 10-0 lead early against Ohio State. They have responded with back-to-back touchdowns, and Ohio State now leads that game early second quarter, 14-10 at Penn State. So we'll keep it up to date on that one over the next 20 minutes. Take a look at the clear advantage, Anthony, where it resides for Oregon. A lot of talent on Michigan's defense. We've talked about their defensive front. Got a good running back. They got one of the best tight ends in the country. A lot of high-end talent. Clear advantage has to go to the most important position on the field, and that is Oregon's got one of the best quarterbacks in the country, and Michigan really struggles to throw the football.
Exactly. Excuse me. It's the guy who touches the ball every offensive snap. Dylan Gabriel, 18 touchdowns, 2,300 yards passing. He's killing it. He's absolutely killing it, and he's a leader out there. He's been in these situations before. He understands these situations, and then the players lean on him. They look for his guidance, his leadership. So no doubt he's with Michigan's quarterbacks. Do they have any compared to Dylan Gabriel? Big difference.
You're going to see two of them at least playing on the other side of the ball today. For Oregon, it will be one, and it will be Dylan Gabriel, and he's having a phenomenal year, and he has really taken over this offense and playing at a very, very high level. Saw him use his legs a little bit last week again as well.
Yep.
He had a play where he kind of trucked a linebacker in the backfield on a quarterback run.
That's right.
And then ended up running in a touchdown on the zone read play. So easily the biggest advantage for Oregon is at the quarterback position. A lot of talent on this Michigan team. Nobody doubts that. The one thing that is fair to doubt and fair to criticize in Michigan football is their inability to throw it and their inability to have a good quarterback play this year. It has not been something they have found in Ann Arbor. Pacific Office Automation has your office game plan. Visit them today for a full technology assessment at pacificoffice.com. Pacific Office Automation, problem solved. Let's talk to Mike Jorgensen, the color analyst of the Oregon Ducks out at the Big House. He joins us next, but now it's time for Ducks Game Day weather every 10 minutes, brought to you by Victor Rico's Mexican food. Order Victor Rico's for your Game Day celebration in-store or online for pickup or delivery at victorricos.com. Here's Jeff Rust.
It's now 50 and mostly cloudy here in Portland, 52 and sunny in Ann Arbor. Ducks Game Day forecast calls for cloudy skies this morning with rain beginning this afternoon and continuing overnight. Look for a high of 54. For the 12:30 kick at the Big House, sunny and 53. It'll get down to the mid, possibly low 40s by the final horn. I'm Jeff Rust with Ducks Game Day weather every 10 minutes, brought to you by Victor Rico's Mexican food.
Duck fans, Game Day is here, and you
Mountain Cold Refreshment. Choose chill. Celebrate responsibly. Continues with Ask Jorgie, a preview of today's game with network color analyst and former Ducks quarterback Mike Jorgensen on the Odyssey app and 1080 The Fan.
Let's talk to Mike Jorgensen, color analyst of the Oregon Ducks. Jorgie_Mike on Twitter. Go give him a follow. Jorgie, Where's this one ranked for you, man? I don't know. You were there in 2007, and that's such a memorable game. But to be back in the Big House, Oregon and Michigan, how are we feeling this morning, getting ready for this big one?
It feels great, guys. I mean, it just feels like big-time football. That's what's so fun about this and the Ohio State games. And the other things that Oregon have been in. Be able to come here to the Big House again to see the historic stadium on a glorious day, by the way. You know how nice it was in Eugene last week for Illinois. It's just like that in Ann Arbor today. It's just unbelievable knowing at this time of year you could get anything. And we've got the best blue sky and sunshine and a great-looking stadium. And I think a lot of fans are jacked to see this game around here, too.
Yeah, no doubt. It sounds like a lot of Duck fans made that trip out. Can't wait to see how well they're represented in the stands. I asked Dusty this earlier. I'll ask you, are we going to see a fake Statue of Liberty today?
I don't know. They may, They may. Who knows? They might bring it back, or at least do something, some sort of side play off of it to have everybody think it's going to be a Statue of Liberty and it'll be a pass down the field. But I'd like to see it. I think it brings back some fun memories.
Yeah, that 07 game.
Time of the game, right? Always do it when you're ahead if you're ahead. So.
Yeah. Don't do it on a big third down in the first half. But, you maybe get a 17-point lead third quarter or something. You want to try that out. I'm just, this team, Jorgie, is just continuing to impress me every single week. And that win last weekend, Illinois, that's a top 20 team coming to town. They could be physical at the line of scrimmage. It's 35-3 at half. You're without two of your best players, and it's just coming at you in waves and depth. How impressive you've been just the last couple of weeks watching all the new guys who have made an impact. Justice Lowe, first career touchdown. Kenyon Sadiq making big plays offensively. Amari Washington coming on. It feels like they've never been this deep, and that is paying huge dividends late in the season when guys are starting to get banged up.
It's a coaching staff's dream, right? I mean, not only do you have first-line guys that are really good, but then you begin to develop the depth, and that depth looks pretty stinking good too. Amari Washington and Sadiq and some of the other ones that are getting a chance to really play some important, significant minutes, making big plays, making big blocks downfield, disrupting plays at the line of scrimmage. It's exactly what you want at this time of year because Oregon really has been pretty healthy this year. Aside from T. Ferg and Jordan Birch and that type of deal, they've really been pretty healthy all year long. And you hope to get those guys back, if not this week, next week, while you continue to develop some of those players that now are ready to play in big-time games. So it's the right time of year to be getting well, to be developing that depth because, if you continue with the season going so far like it is, continue on for a couple, 2 or 3 more games, it's going to play a big factor if you can go on down the road with some additional games.
Jorgie, I know you want Oregon to run the football. I understand that. Noah Whittington is looking like the old Noah Whittington, but they have some challenges. Michigan's run defense is ranked 15th in the country, and Oregon's rush defense is ranked 62nd in the country. It could be a challenge to run the football this afternoon.
Yeah, it could be for Oregon. I mean, you look at Mason Graham and Kenneth Grant, 2 NFLers on that defensive line that are really good players, and some other guys that are really disruptive. Michigan doesn't give up a whole lot of rushing yards, and so it's going to be tough. It's going to be a tough go for Oregon to establish any type of consistent running game. I think the one X factor that you might have is the ability of Dylan Gabriel from time to time to be able to keep that ball and make that defense a little bit more honest so they can't just key in on the 2 tailbacks all day long. But, at the same time, it's going to be quite a challenge. And yet you look at Donovan Edwards and the running back Khalil Knowles who run the ball well. That's going to be something that Michigan has to do in this game today to really be able to hang with Oregon, I think, because they have to run the ball, have to have some success doing that, possess the ball, and not allow Oregon to either jump out to a big lead like we talked about last week before the game. I thought Illinois was going to have a heck of a time keeping up with Oregon if Oregon scored quick, and that's exactly what Oregon did, and it's the way the game played out. I just feel like today's game, same thing. Michigan's just got to hang around with a salty defense, play good defense, and they'll be in the game all the way. But if Oregon jumps out, gets hot on offense early, it's going to be tough. So, but that line of scrimmage in the trenches is going to be a key for both these teams.
We have gotten accustomed to watching Oregon football for a long time, seeing elite quarterback play. And I know that there was a brief dip there kind of after Herbert where you weren't quite sure what you were going to get. And we were truly blessed and spoiled the last 2 years watching Bo and the guy that he became. And Gabriel announces he's transferring in. I'm curious what you've made of kind of being around him and getting to see him grow and develop and where they started at the beginning of the year, the leader that he is in the locker room. I mean, you can make an argument he's the best quarterback in the country this year. Some of the numbers don't bear that out, but the impact that he's having on games, just how impressive have you been watching Oregon really not miss a beat offensively? And you're looking at last year, one of the most efficient offenses in the history of the program. What do you made of Gabriel and how good he's been in these big situations?
what I love about Dylan Gabriel in these type of big situations is he doesn't panic. He's always in control. He doesn't try to force things. You know, and in games like this, you just can't put your back against the wall in any way, shape, or form where you're just, you know, in a 50-50 type of situation deciding to throw it, hoping the guy can make a play. Because it's easy to do, particularly when you stack up the yards and the touchdowns and you get big playmakers and you think they can catch anything that you throw out there. His decision-making is right on point. And then what I've been shocked with is just the strength of his arm. I always knew he had a really good arm watching him play it, you know, the previous places that he's played in that type of deal. But until you're down on the field, watching him zing that ball around in person, whether it's at practice or in the games, you don't realize how well he spins the ball, what the velocity of that ball is when he wants to really zing it out there from left hash to the right sideline or opposite, whatever it might be. He's got all the throws plus a touch.
Yeah.
And so, you know, he's a great leader. Guys love him, absolutely love him. And I think he's just gotten better and better each week. You know, it was one of those ones during fall ball where I was out there watching him. I thought, gosh, I don't know. And sometimes you just got to not say that in your mind and let the thing play out, because as you watch this thing play out, he's a complete player, and it's been fun watching him. Good guy.
Yeah. And you mentioned, too, there, Jorgie, that a little bit earlier he could use his legs today. We saw that last week against Illinois and had a big impact in the Ohio State game late with that touchdown. Looking at Oregon's defense today, Jorgie, we know that Michigan's going to try and run the football. I imagine that's a matchup that Oregon looks forward to trying to, you know, the challenge they look forward to facing, where it's a physical group. They love being, you know, big and physical at the line of scrimmage. Their front seven's really strong, not a huge threat of a vertical passing game. What do you think they're thinking going into the matchup, and how ready is Oregon for what is likely going to be a downhill rushing attack and maybe a little quarterback run for Michigan today?
Yeah, I think they're really hungry for that challenge. You know, led by Derek Harmon in the middle, coming home to play basically in the state of Michigan and trying to track down all the tickets he can. Obviously, to be able to entertain family. He's going to be the center of that, disrupting things in the middle. I think with Amari Washington and some of the others that have been played so well, obviously Jamari Caldwell too. It's the type of challenge that they really look forward to. And, you know, then again, if you can put the type of pressure that you want to put on Davis Warren when he's in the game, or, you know, whoever it might be, you know, it's just going to be one of those ones where you've got to take a look at. I mean, Alex Orji, a guy who's more of a runner than a thrower, you can key in on that. And yet you got to watch out for Colson Loveland. I mean, one of the best tight ends in the country, the leading receiver by far on this team. And so they like to target him a lot. I like the matchups of the linebackers that get set up for Oregon's defense, covering a guy like Loveland, whether it's Bassa or Betcher or some of those guys. I think the matchups are really good for Oregon's defense in this game. So, you know, I know those guys are looking forward to the challenge because that's what Michigan's going to try to do.
Yeah, and it's great for your NFL draft stock. You got a lot of high-end players where you're going to get one-on-one matchups that NFL scouts are going to be looking for, so there's that bigger picture as well. Can't wait to hear you guys call this one. Have a great day out in Ann Arbor. Sounds like a beautiful day. Should be a fun one. Back in the Big House, first time since 2007. Thanks as always, Jorgie, for the time. Have a great call, and we'll catch up again next weekend.
Okay, I look forward to seeing you guys. Thanks.
There you go. Right. Mike Jorgensen, the color analyst of the Oregon Ducks. I imagine as a defensive guy, you pride yourself on being physical. This is when you're kind of licking your lips of like, bring it on. You think you can bully us at the line of scrimmage?
Oh, that's right.
We got something for you.
You want this type of game.
You do.
These are the games that you want.
And he pointed out there something we haven't talked about yet on the show, but a good reminder, Derek Harmon, Michigan kid, played at Michigan State.
Yep.
He was asked this week, how do you feel about him? He was like, that rivalry ain't dead for me. I hate them. I know I'm not at Michigan State anymore.
I love it.
I hate those guys.
Yeah,
so you got somebody up there in that front seven beating the drum of, we got to be physical. Let's go punch these guys in the mouth, and should be a fun one. What's at stake? We'll let you know. Only a couple of segments left for us. Then we'll send you out to the Big House in Ann Arbor. We'll also give you a quick score update when we come back on Ohio State and Penn State and how that game is looking early on. What's at stake? That is next. You got the Ducks pregame show on 1080 The Fan.
It is 50 and mostly cloudy in Portland, 52 sunny in Ann Arbor. Ducks game day forecast calls for cloudy skies this morning with rain beginning this afternoon and continuing into the early morning hours. High of 54 today. For the 12:30 kick at the Big House, sunny and 53. It'll get down to the mid, possibly low 40s by the final horn. I'm Jeff Rust with Ducks game day weather every 10 minutes, brought to you by Victor Rico's Mexican Food. Order Victor Rico's for your game day celebration in store or online for pickup or delivery at victorricos.com.
It's time to sharpen the knives and make some picks.
How do you feel about this weekend?
Do you rent that yacht?
No, I own it.
That's how I feel about this weekend.
It's time for What's at Stake as the Ducks Game Day hosts look at the most impactful games in college football. Brought to you by Laurelhurst Market, more than just your friendly neighborhood steakhouse. Make your reservation today at laurelhurstmarket.com.
All right, What's at Stake? Brought to you, as always, by Laurelhurst Market. More than just your friendly neighborhood steakhouse. Make your reservation today, laurelhurstmarket.com. Don't forget to listen to the Pacific Office Automation Postgame Scoreboard Show coming up later this afternoon and evening. Your chance to hear the Game Day secret score. If you hear that, you got an opportunity to win a $100 Laurelhurst Market gift card, which Sprague and I will give away in the 7 a.m. hour on Monday. A quick score update for you. Boy, is this game tilted on its axis. It was 10-0 Penn State in the first quarter. Ohio State has now scored 3 unanswered touchdowns, and they lead 21-0. They're going to review this one to see if Will Howard stepped out of bounds. It does not look like he did. Or did he fumble it? That'll be an interesting review.
Oh, yes. I think that's a fumble, yeah.
I think that was coming loose before he went in.
Yes. Oh, yeah, the ball comes right
It
there.
did. Wow. Okay. Well, I spoke too soon. Did the ball go out of bounds or did it go into the end zone? No. That'll be the next part of that replay.
I think it went into the end zone.
As we all give you a live play-by-play.
Wow.
So Will Howard was just running in a touchdown and put Ohio State up 21-10. But, yeah, the ball clearly comes out. It's a nice strip about the 1.5 yard line where the ball starts coming loose. And it does look like it went into the end zone. He kind of kicks it with his leg into the end zone.
Yes,
and that
it is.
That looks like it'll be a touchback.
That's a touchback.
So it'll be that might have just saved Penn State's day. So they're going to spend some time reviewing that. What's at stake? Looking at this matchup today, Anthony. Oregon has not started a season 9-0 since 2012. 2012. There's a lot of those numbers we've given you. I think they haven't been 8-0, 7-0, 9-0, and all that. Chance to go 9-0. And as Nimmick kind of pointed out earlier, this is a moment for me where I'm enjoying this ride, man. There are times over the last decade you weren't sure if you were ever going to get back to Willie Taggart days. Mark Helfrich end? Are we ever going to get back to this? This is a team that is built to contend with anybody in the country. They are rolling on all cylinders. We'll see how the game goes today. But what's at stake for me is just enjoying this ride, man. It's been a lot of fun this year.
I love it. I mean, as an ex-Duck, as a fan, this is the best time of my life. I mean, we're everybody's having a blast. Dan Lanning's going to say, who cares?
Who cares? Doesn't matter.
The kids are saying, who cares? It's all about Michigan right now.
And that game is coming up in 2 hours. Our final thoughts, our predictions. We'll wrap up with that coming up next. Ducks pregame show on 1080 The Fan.
Touchdown, Ducks!
It's time for the Line to Watch, where our Ducks Game Day hosts responsibly look at the number on select college matchups and predict the score of today's Ducks game. Don't worry, we'll check their work after the game on the post-game scoreboard show. The Line to Watch is brought to you by Multnomah County Behavioral Health Division. Don't let the game play you. For more information on problem gambling prevention and treatment resources, visit opgr.org.
All right, quickly before we wrap up here, we're going to send you out to Ann Arbor in a moment. Oregon and Michigan coming up 12:30 right here on the Fan. Quick score updates around the country. The call did get reversed, so if you just got in your car, Ohio State was going in to make it a 21-10 game over Penn State. And Will Howard fumbled on about the half-yard line as he was going in. Ball went into the end zone, so that was ruled a touchback. So it is 14-10. Take the tutty off the board. Penn State's got the ball about 5 minutes to go in the first half, trying to drive and take the lead. Ohio State will get the ball to start the second half. Felt like that play might have just changed. We'll see. I don't know if Penn State's got enough to win still, but if they don't get that stop there, this game's over. The way their offense is playing right now, this game's over.
Yeah, well, they need some points right now.
They need something, man.
They need something.
They're getting this cute, gimmicky formation crap. Don't get me started on that. Penn State's, they're reaching down to the bottom of the drawer.
Trying to out-Chip Kelly.
Trying to find something to get their offense going because Drew Allar's not getting it done. And a quick score update, by the way, Miami-Duke 17-14. Duke driving near the end of the first half with a chance to take the lead. Just point that out.
Text me later.
I'll text you during that game. Last thoughts on this one, Anthony. Just spreads 14.5. You think Oregon gets it done today?
Yeah, I think they win by 17. It's going to be a tough defense they're going to go against, but Oregon's explosive on offense. Yeah, they can't stop them.
I don't think it'll be 35-3 at halftime like it was last week. Maybe tight in the first half. I think Oregon pulls away in the second half.
Yeah.
Give me a 21-point win. I'll say 38, I give it 38-17, whatever. Somewhere in that range is what I'll do. Line to watch brought to you by Multnomah County Behavioral Health Division. Don't let the game play you. For more information on problem gambling, prevention, and treatment resources, visit opgr.org. That will do it for us, folks. Enjoy the game today. First time Oregon's been out there since 2007. Should be a fun one in the big house. We'll talk to you again next week. Send you out to Ann Arbor next. As always, go Ducks.